Chapter 1791. As a mysterious special creature, the hexagon starfish was very sensitive to pressure, but its degree of fear was obviously different from that of other creatures. Maybe it was because this guy had a relatively high level of life and was extremely rare, or maybe it was self-hypnotizing to pretend that there was nothing here. When Xia Shaochan walked to 1,800 meters, the hexagon starfish could still follow her. Xia Shaochan, on the other hand, was panting. She knew that if she didn't become a half-king, this should be her limit. However, the hexagon starfish could still follow her. This made Xia Shaochan speechless. She knew that the big starfish was talented, but she didn't expect that this guy's ability to resist pressure was so strong. Soon after Xia Shaochan stopped, she heard a creaking sound again. The crowd was startled, and they all glanced at the bronze gate. On the ice-snow sky's side, Chu Yang reminded Bingxue Chuling, "Holy girl, are we really not going to wake up Lord Saint Child?" Bingxue Chuling nodded. No. The Saint Child's path of cultivation is different from ours. His enlightenment may be an epiphany, which is no worse than this opportunity. Chu Yang and Qin Yu both understood. It turned out that the path he took was different. No wonder Lord Saint Child cultivated in seclusion here. At the forefront of the crowd, Han Fei slowly opened his eyes and shouted in his heart, "Fuse." At the moment when the yin-yang divine eyes fused, what he saw just now was a blurry scene and nothing else, but Han Fei thought to himself, "Last time, I did see something. This time, I'm quite close. I should be able to see something, right?" When the gates slowly opened, a gap was revealed, and a large expanse of white light was revealed from the gap. A tremendous amount of power of the Great Way rushed over. Although Han Fei's eyes were a bit blurred, he seemed to see a vague figure, which seemed to be sitting. The power of the Great Way filled Han Fei's body in an instant. Han Fei hurriedly channeled part of the power into Forge the Universe. However, Han Fei only had time to absorb 2 portions of power before he heard the gate creak and began to slowly close. This time, after waking up from a dizziness, Han Fei didn't deactivate the yin-yang divine eyes. As the saying went, strike while the iron is hot. The power of the Great Tao continued to disassemble the spiritual energy from its composition. If someone was next to Han Fei, they would definitely see that the void in front of him was filled with the power of the Great Way. These Great Tao energies formed countless weak and tiny vortexes. Finally, this time, with the experience from last time, Han Fei saw the formation of a dot. However, that dot still lacked the attachment of spiritual power, so it couldn't form a complete drop of spiritual energy. After a while, Han Fei's spiritual energy had been disassembled to 97%. Han Fei licked his lips. At this speed, why did he have to deduce the spiritual energy dismantling with the power of faith? Isn't it good for me to use it to improve my strength? Someone in the sea expansion realm had forcefully used the power of will to break through to the heaven-opening realm. Let's not argue too much. It's just a good chance to help him break through from the peak of the venerable realm to the half-king realm. It's simply too perfect. That was because the bronze door would only open once every other day. Therefore, Han Fei took this opportunity to move forward. The old tortoise once said, to resist such pressure, the main thing is to have a firm Taoist heart. And Han Fei's Taoist heart was quite firm now. Because Han Fei saw infinite hope, he should be more determined than others. So, when the bronze door opened another day, Han Fei had walked 2,500 meters and was only 500 meters away from the bronze door. On this day, Han Fei saw that spiritual energy actually also had a core. However, after the core was formed, it would integrate itself into the spiritual energy. Another day, Han Fei moved forward more than 50 meters. This time, he saw the power of the Great Way as the core, and finally the core integrated into the whole drop of spiritual energy. A complete drop of spiritual energy was formed just like this. Han Fei proved that his previous guess was correct. That was to say, every bit of spiritual energy contained the power of the Great Way. Disassembling the spiritual energy was actually disassembling the power of the Great Way in this drop of spiritual energy. Using the disassembled spiritual energy was actually releasing the complete power of the Great Way in this drop of spiritual energy. Because when the power of the Great Way was completely released, the power that erupted from a little bit of spiritual energy would be far beyond that of ordinary people. At the same time, this could also prove one thing, that was, the method of disassembling spiritual energy for ordinary people was not necessarily correct fundamentally. It was just that they were careless and accidentally used the power of the Great Way separately. After figuring all this out, Han Fei found that his spiritual energy disassembly rate had reached a terrifying level of 99%. This was completely beyond Han Fei's expectation. And this was the only place in the land of the fallen king that might be related to the imperial palace. If he really went to the imperial palace, as long as he didn't die, wouldn't he become a king in minutes? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, why could those people produce more than 100 kings at once 100,000 years ago? Why did those people stay until now and still want to explore this imperial palace? The fundamental reason was that they had gained too many benefits from the imperial palace. The spiritual energy disassembly rate was only one aspect. This kind of pure power of the Great Way could be used to practice combat skills, improve physique, and comprehend great techniques. It could be said to have infinite magical uses. However, what made Han Fei curious was, why did the spiritual energy disassembly rate end when it reached 99%? Then where did the last 1% come from? Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Old Yuan, you used to say that 99% spiritual energy disassembly rate is an extremely high potential that only venerable emperors can achieve. Then what do I do now?" The old turtle said leisurely, "I'm also confused about this now. But I know that it's true. I've never heard of anyone who comprehended the spiritual energy disassembly rate to 99% when he was in the venerable realm." Han Fei said solemnly, "If he had reached this level, or even reached 100%, would he have told you?" The old turtle said, "This matter, from the perspective of now, is indeed mysterious." The old turtle was also confused now. He also obtained this power of the Great Way and disassembled the spiritual energy, but the result was very similar to Han Fei's, so he was also confused now. Han Fei now had a special feeling. When he fully understood the structure and birth of spiritual energy, he thought that the secrets of spiritual energy could be discovered. The last 1% might be hiding an even greater secret. On the 5th day, Han Fei moved forward another 100 meters. At this moment, it was extremely difficult for him to even sit. When the power of the Great Way rushed over, Han Fei reconstructed the spiritual energy for the last time. Through repeated reconstructions, each time, he could perfectly repeat and disassemble all the spiritual energy. But in the end, he failed to go further and continue to enhance the disassembly rate of spiritual energy. Han Fei had long forgotten about the old turtle. This guy didn't know much more than he did now. The remaining 1% could only be comprehended by himself. To be honest, the composition of this spiritual energy was similar to the composition of atoms, but also very different. Han Fei was not sure now. Han Fei thought hard for another day, calculating when the bronze door would open and waiting for the power of the Great Way to erupt. Wait, Han Fei was stunned. Why wait for the power of the Great Way behind the bronze door? He also had a Great Way. He had many Great Ways and could use a lot of the power of the Great Way. Why should he use the power of the Great Way behind the bronze door? Suddenly, Han Fei's heart trembled. Han Fei's eyes flashed. Suddenly, a touch of holy power of the Great Way appeared on Han Fei's body. This was the power of the Tianqi Great Way. Han Fei constructed the spiritual energy vortex in the same way. He created this power of the Great Way into spiritual energy. Suddenly, a piece of holy white light appeared on Han Fei's body. In the rear, Wu Hao and the others were the closest, but now they were almost 600 meters away from Han Fei. After more than 2,000 meters, there was no way to catch up. That oppressive might was simply too terrifying. At this moment, seeing the holy light surging on Han Fei's body, everyone couldn't help but look over curiously. Unfortunately, the two sides were always at a distance, and they didn't know what Han Fei was doing. They didn't know what Han Fei had gained. But Han Fei ignored the others and just continued to experiment. No, this method only strengthens the effect of the Great Way of Tianqi. It can't make up for the last 1%. Han Fei experimented with the invincible road again. As a result, a ball of dazzling golden light burst out of Han Fei's body again. Han Fei felt that he could endow spiritual energy with invincible power, making every wisp of spiritual energy extremely tough, penetrating, attacking, and so on. At this point, Han Fei understood. Why did he study the disassembly rate of spiritual energy? Because after thoroughly understanding this power, he could double the power of his own great way. Especially for someone like Han Fei who had walked on multiple paths and comprehended the disassembly rate of spiritual energy, it could be said that he had enhanced all his combat power to the extreme. Apart from anything else, Han Fei believed that with his current strength, if he exerted his full strength, he would be 30% stronger than before. Even more than that. Han Fei even felt that if he weren't limited by his current strength, he could fight against a king without using the power of the Great Way to strengthen himself. Although excited, Han Fei's understanding couldn't increase his disassembly rate of spiritual energy to 100%. Because he didn't know what else he could deduce further down the path. After thinking for a long time, Han Fei found nothing. Alone at the forefront, he did a lot of tests. The people of the major forces behind looked at each other in bewilderment, wondering what Han Fei had comprehended. Just on the 6th day, Han Fei suddenly looked back, only to see that Xia Shaochan was surrounded by a huge amount of resources, ultra-quality spiritual stones, all kinds of ultra-quality spiritual fruits, and countless other resources. Spiritual energy storms and energy storms were rising above Xia Shaochan's head. Who, at this moment, it seemed that all the surrounding forces were revolving around Xia Shaochan. When Han Fei saw that the people around Xia Shaochan had all turned into mermaids, he knew that this breakthrough would undoubtedly be successful. However, when Han Fei saw the huge amount of spiritual energy drilling into Xia Shaochan's body, he couldn't help but sigh. Every day, everyone was consuming spiritual energy, but it wasn't until now that he finally understood spiritual energy. Han Fei looked back at the bronze gate, and his eyes turned cold. In front of him, the nautical panorama began to spin. When the nautical panorama pointed at the bronze gate, Han Fei couldn't help but smile bitterly. Do you want me to die? Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1792. The question Han Fei asked in his heart was, where can I get the method to disassemble 100% of spiritual energy? The purpose of this question was to see if there was the answer to the last 1% of spiritual energy disassembling in this bronze door. Han Fei smiled bitterly. At this moment, he proved that his suspicion was correct. The old turtle was just an emperor, and there were many things that the emperor didn't know at all. For example, the old turtle thought that the venerable emperor could only reach 95% or more of spiritual energy disassembling. But as soon as Han Fei tested it, he immediately found the problem. The person inside was absolutely 100% sure. Otherwise, the nautical panorama wouldn't be able to point at him. After confirming that there was the answer in the bronze door, Han Fei immediately took out the 9-palace ruler of fortune. However, to Han Fei's great surprise, he had been prepared for such a desperate situation. However, the result given by the ruler of fortune turned out to be an auspicious hexagram. Han Fei was dumbfounded. This was the first time that he got an auspicious hexagram since he got the 9-palace ruler of fortune. Han Fei's eyes immediately lit up. This meant that he could enter this door. The old turtle said, an auspicious hexagram? Are you going in? Han Fei nodded. Of course. The hexagram shows that I can enter. There is a great opportunity, so I must enter. Old Yuan, remember not to make a sound if there is a special situation. The old turtle nodded. Got it. Han Fei responded to Xia Shaochan, girl, don't be surprised no matter what happens later. Xia Shaochan asked, what are you going to do? Han Fei said, I'm going to take a look inside the door. Xia Shaochan was dumbfounded. She was stuck at about 2,000 meters. You've already run 2,600 meters, and you still want to enter the door? Xia Shaochan asked, how dangerous is it? Han Fei said, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Have you forgotten that I have the ruler of fortune with me? Hearing the words, ruler of fortune, Xia Shaochan was slightly relieved. Then I'll wait for you outside. Han Fei said to the ice and snow spirit via voice transmission, I will disappear later. If there is any problem during my absence, remember to take the ice and snow lotus away. You can put it directly into your storage space. Han Fei wasn't worried that there would be any problem if the ice and snow spirit did this. After all, it was a portable small world. Although it was rare, it didn't mean that it didn't exist. Bingxue Chuling was surprised. What did Han Fei mean by disappear? But she still agreed immediately, okay. An hour later. Creak, when the bronze door opened again, a ray of light began to shine. With a bang, the airwaves around Han Fei were detonated. To everyone's astonishment, Han Fei suddenly stood up. Many people looked at each other, wondering what he was going to do. Wu Hao and the others who were closest to him sensed that Han Fei's vitality was soaring crazily. The faint red wine in the surroundings was also crazily pouring into his body. The water under their feet even began to flow backwards. Creak, Zhang Hongyu, what is he trying to do? He can still stand up in the face of such a terrifying pressure. Li Kaitian, oh my god. Could it be that this guy wants to enter the door? The group of people looked at Li Kaitian like he was an idiot. Someone directly mocked, are you stupid? It was difficult to take even a step forward. Although he was close to the front, he was still 400 meters away from the bronze door. Fly there. Xia Hai, it's impossible. This bronze door will only be open for about 10 minutes a day. In such a short time, let alone go in. If he can move 10 steps forward, I will eat this door. Lu Ran, people from the Golden Crow Heaven are all bragging. However, among the people, only Song Kaiyuan said leisurely, I'm afraid Li Kaitian is right this time, isn't he? Huh? Just as the crowd was wondering why Song Kaiyuan was sighing with emotion, they saw that the bronze gate had opened to its widest extent. When the power of the Great Way hit him, Han Fei roared and enveloped himself with the invincible golden body. His strength had reached the peak and was comparable to that of a king. Bam! 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 Under the terrifying pressure, Han Fei began to run wildly. Hiss! At this moment, countless people were shocked. Bai Muling was dumbfounded. Wait! Old scoundrel Situ, try hitting me. Are my eyes deceiving me? Situ Yuhong sneered. If I hit you, it will bounce back to me. Do you think I'm stupid? Just hit me and you'll know. Pa, Bai Muling slapped a palm into the water and said with a sigh, this person's strength is somewhat ridiculously strong. If I didn't know better, I might think he's a king. Xia Shaochan was also stunned. The hexagon starfish exclaimed, seriously? How can he run in this situation? In the end, a great demon of the 100 Demons clan who had attacked Han Fei and Xia Shaochan felt cold sweat on his back. Damn it, should I run? I wonder if that guy will hold a grudge against me. Under everyone's speechless and shocked gazes, Han Fei sprinted. Every step he took on the ground, everyone felt as if a stone was smashing into their hearts. In fact, at this moment, Han Fei had already reached his fastest speed. The first 200 meters, Han Fei rushed over in one breath. The 300 meters, Han Fei took 3 seconds. In the last 100 meters, Han Fei roared and burned his essence blood. He ran as fast as a child, but he already felt that he was running fast. Crack! When the power of the Great Way stopped rushing out of the bronze gate, Han Fei knew that the gate was about to close. Han Fei's blood and qi were burning again, illuminating the whole space with golden light. Swish! When the golden light faded and the white gate was closed, Han Fei was nowhere to be seen. Li Kaitian's eyes widened. I was just kidding. I didn't expect that he would take it seriously. Jian Hui glanced at Li Kaitian. It's none of your business. Song Kaiyuan said leisurely. From the moment he stood up, I knew something was wrong. At that moment, the spiritual energy around him was changed in an instant. It was no longer spiritual energy, but the power of the Great Way. He carried the last 400 meters with his own Great Way. I finally understand why this person can resist the blow of a king. It's because the Great Way he walks on has such an ability. Li Kaitian scoffed. Speak normally. Song Kaiyuan snorted. When he uses the Great Way, he is comparable to a king. His Song Kaiyuan's words horrified all of them. So, we were robbed by a king, weren't we? Lu Ran said, hey. Shy, right? I heard that you want to eat the bronze gate. Don't just say it. How about you try it? A few meters behind Song Kaiyuan, a girl smiled and said, he has to be able to walk to the gate first. Then the girl looked at Song Kaiyuan and said telepathically, Senior brother, who is this person? You really didn't see it? Song Kaiyuan said lightly, let's talk about it at home. Mui Shui Sisi couldn't help but be surprised. Her senior brother had always been unreliable. However, his insight and insight were unparalleled in the world. Han Fei had fought in front of him. She didn't believe that her senior brother didn't see anything. Seeing that Song Kaiyuan was talking seriously, Mui Shui Sisi didn't ask anymore. This person must be extraordinary for her senior brother to be so cautious. When everyone outside the bronze gate was shocked. Han Fei rushed into the bronze gate. Han Fei, however, came to a white, illusory place. This seemed to be the top of a mountain. Han Fei could even feel the wind. When Han Fei looked up, he seemed to see a vague figure sitting on the top of the mountain. However, the figure was extremely tall, as if a giant was sitting in front of him. It was as holy as a Buddha, shocking people's hearts and making them want to kneel down devoutly. With just a glance, Han Fei's eyes immediately stung, and golden blood gurgled out. I can't look straight at it. I can't look straight at it. Only then did Han Fei notice that he was on a platform about thousands of meters away from the top of the mountain. And he was sitting, and there was even a futon under his butt. When Han Fei turned his head to look elsewhere, he found that he was not alone on this mountain. Not far away, there was a phantom covered by white mist, which looked like a bug, lying on the mountain. It was 100 meters long, so Han Fei could barely distinguish it. On the other side, there seemed to be a waterfall, and there seemed to be fish rushing against the waterfall. Above the sky, there seemed to be a giant bird hovering, its wings spread like clouds hanging in the sky, and its tail spanned tens of thousands of meters across the void. Behind Han Fei, there seemed to be a skeleton the size of a mountain, tens of thousands of meters high, standing with its head down. Somewhere in the mountain spring, there was gurgling water, and there seemed to be glowing flowers swaying there. Fuck, what's going on here? Calm down. While Han Fei was looking around, there seemed to be a voice coming from the distant sky, above the ninth heaven. That voice fell in Han Fei's mind. Han Fei subconsciously raised his head and sat upright. Han Fei was sure that the voice came from the one above, but he didn't dare to look up. The mountain-like skeleton didn't even dare to raise its head. The one said, "The Great Way is in the heart, and the Great Way is a creature." Han Fei realized that this person was giving a lecture. This was probably the scene of a god preaching that the old turtle said. Of course, the one in front of him might not be a god, but at least a venerable emperor. Han Fei tried very hard to hear every word clearly, but except for the word, calm down, Han Fei thought he had remembered every word, but he forgot them in an instant. However, the most terrifying thing was that Han Fei even forgot the act of forgetting them. Han Fei seemed to be stunned, sitting cross-legged on the top of the mountain. There was a buzzing sound in his ears, and he didn't have any consciousness. However, even Han Fei himself didn't know that his blood and qi were returning to him, and there was a divine light appearing in front of his forehead. In his body, the energy suppressed by the old turtle surged out like a tide. However, when this energy washed through Han Fei's body, it dissipated in the wind with a large amount of white impurities and some golden light particles. Han Fei didn't know that in his Forge the Universe, the massive amount of spiritual stones were shattering crazily. On average, hundreds of pieces would shatter every second. He didn't know how long it had been, but Han Fei finally heard a voice, and then he instantly woke up. The ethereal voice said leisurely, "Okay, that's all for today. You can go now." Han Fei was shocked. "What the hell? I'm gone now. I've just arrived." However, among the mountains, many voices responded at the same time, "Goodbye, senior brother." Han Fei. And Han Fei thought to himself, "Can I still look up?" However, he didn't raise his head, but there was a voice rolling, like the sound of the Great Way, shaking his heart. The man said, "The Great Way has no end or door, and there is a path in the void to step on the immortal dust. Entering the void is both a fate and a disaster. When you complete the entrance test, you can call yourself the best disciple of the void." The third chapter. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1793. Han Fei was dumbfounded. Entrance test? A disciple of the void sect? When Han Fei raised his head again, the top of the mountain became clear. There was no one there. Obviously, there was nothing there. Han Fei didn't realize that he had already cultivated. Han Fei was still curious. Where was he? Han Fei was looking around. Han Fei saw that in the waterfall far away, the fish that was swimming upstream a moment ago was swimming. At this moment, it soared into the sky and turned into a dragon shadow, hovering in the sky. Hiss! Dragon! This was the second time Han Fei saw a dragon after the shadow of the azure dragon. Before Han Fei could look elsewhere, he heard the dragon roar in the sky. "Little junior brother, you must keep in mind what eldest senior brother said." Han Fei thought to himself, who is he talking to? Han Fei couldn't help but look at the big insect that was lying not far away from him. He couldn't see its face at all but only saw a vague image there. The insect said, "Little junior brother, welcome to the Void Temple." Han Fei's lips twitched. He looked around for a while, only to hear the insect say, "Stop looking. I'm talking to you." Hiss! Han Fei immediately gasped. "Wait. When did I become your junior brother? Also, what kind of place is the Void Temple?" Hiss! Hiss! Hearing something behind him, Han Fei turned around, only to see a skeleton as high as a mountain. Although he still couldn't see it clearly, it must be a skeleton. He could see the shadow of the skeleton and the elongated skull. The skeleton opened its mouth, and its voice seemed to come from hell. "Those who enter the void gate are void dwellers. Junior brother, you are not strong enough. You must work harder." On the next mountain, a giant human-shaped shadow set foot on the top of the mountain, revealing only its scarlet eyes. Its voice hummed. "The great Tao is like a pot of wine. The heavenly Tao often asks about nothingness. Junior brother, in the Void Temple, what you see is nothing. You are not strong enough to see through the nothingness. I'll give you a pot of Tao-seeking wine. I hope you can return to the Void Temple as soon as possible." Then he saw a streak of green light flying over from the next hill. The green light broke through the mist, the layers of void, and the endless time and obstacles before it finally fell into Han Fei's hands. When he took a closer look, he found that it was a small wooden gourd. However, the information that appeared in Han Fei's eyes shocked him. A string of information emerged in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Green Thunder Wine Calabash. Introduction: It was refined from the azure sky gourd, a spiritual treasure of heaven and earth. It was forged by the essence fire of the thunder pool. The green gourd could absorb all spirits in the world and turn them into wine. It could absorb souls, living beings, the spiritual energy of the world, and the aura of chaos. It could change its size at will. It could travel with the wind, break through mountains and seas, and control lightning. When the spring water of the world was placed in the gourd, it could produce the best wine in the world. 10-year fine wine, 100-year Tao-seeking wine, 1,000-year heavenly Tao wine, and 10,000-year longevity wine. Quality: high-quality divine artifact, attached spirit, none. Effect: endless magical effects, recastable, unrefined, remarks the divine artifact, do not easily recognize its master. Fuck, when he saw this information, Han Fei was shocked. Fuck, are you bragging to me? This is a fucking high-quality divine artifact, but it turned out to be a wine calabash. A high-quality divine artifact. What kind of existence would be able to use such a terrifying weapon? Han Fei finally knew why the Nine-Palace ruler of luck told him that he had an auspicious divination. This was more than auspicious. This was simply a divine artifact that had descended from the heavens, a blessing that reached the heavens. Han Fei's reaction was very fast. 3 divine temples. This was definitely one of the 3 divine temples. The divine temples that he knew before were the Temple of Time, the Temple of Immortality, and the last one was probably the Void Temple. Han Fei's vision was only limited to the 36 mysterious heavens. Who could have known that he would somehow become a disciple of the Void Temple? Oh, no, not just that. There seemed to be an entrance test. Besides, this temple was incredible. These senior brothers all seemed to be extraordinary. Han Fei hurriedly said, "Senior brother, can I recognize your calabash as its master? It won't suck me to death, will it?" On the top of the mountain, the huge figure said, "The divine artifact has a spirit. It nourishes itself every day and will recognize its master in the future." Hearing this, Han Fei immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "So, I still can't recognize it as its master. If I can't recognize it as its master, this thing can only be a wine calabash. If I fall and hit it, the calabash will be unhappy and will definitely suck me to death." Han Fei saw a spiritual pool on the mountainside, and there seemed to be flowers swaying in the pool, letting out crisp laughter. The voice said, "The Void Temple, it's been a long time since someone came here. Old guy, how dare you give away the Tao-seeking wine? Do you know that going too far is as bad as not going far enough?" The giant figure on the mountaintop said, "I do what I want. It's none of your business. Forget it, eldest senior brother's class is over. I have to go. See you another day." In the sky, the dragon's shadow also said, "I'm going back too." The big bird also responded, "I'm leaving. Little junior brother, work hard." In the nothingness, they all left one after another. Han Fei looked back, and even the big skeleton was gone. Han Fei didn't feel good at all. The insect next door still wanted to speak, but Han Fei hurriedly stopped it. "Wait a minute. Senior brother, how can I go back?" The insect said, "The Void Temple is in the nothingness, and this world is all nothingness. You can go back as soon as you think about it." Han Fei hurriedly asked, "Then how can I come in?" The insect said again, "Eldest senior brother's class depends on your luck. Since you can come in now, as long as you don't die, you will have a chance to come in the future. Everyone's luck is different. You will know." Han Fei asked again, "Senior brother, what is the entrance test? Isn't there an entrance test?" The insect said, "Little junior brother, you will know when the test comes. It is the test of the Void Temple." With that, the insect's figure faded in the nothingness. After Han Fei confirmed that there was nothing here, Han Fei asked in his heart, "Old Yuan, Old Yuan?" However, Han Fei found that Old Yuan didn't respond at all. Han Fei wanted to take a look at the demon purification pot. Inside the demon purification pot, Old Yuan seemed to be meditating. He didn't cultivate, didn't move, and didn't respond when he called him. Han Fei suddenly woke up. "Damn it, didn't I come here to find answers? Just now, so many people were here, but I didn't even think to ask about the last 1% of the spiritual energy disassembly rate. Now that they were all gone, what should I do?" However, Han Fei suddenly thought of something. The next moment, Han Fei sensed himself and was shocked. His spiritual energy disassembly rate was 100%. Hiss. Han Fei was stunned. What the hell did I do? Why is it 100%? Han Fei quickly looked at his personal information, only to be confused again. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 89, Half King, C 10,000 Family Tree, 2720986 Chaotic Gas, 276 Spiritual Power, 306253 Perception Range greater than 200,000 kilometers, Power greater than 32,265 Waves. First Spiritual Heritage, Unknown. Second Spiritual Heritage, Unknown. First Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish, Level 79. Second Spiritual Beast, Emperor Sparrow, Level 77, Main Art Avoid Arrival, Level 7 of Void Fishing, King Level, Divine Quality, Gudu. Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. Didn't I just come here? Why am I already a half-king? What did I do? Not only am I a half-king, but Little Black and Little White have also advanced. Han Fei's heart trembled and he thought, not good. I've been here for a long time. The Bronze Gate might have been opened because of the first senior brother's lecture. But now, the first senior brother has suspended the class. How long has it been? Out, I have to go out as soon as possible, Han Fei thought to himself, oh no, Xia Xiaochan is still waiting for me. Han Fei didn't expect that a long time might have passed in the outside world in the blink of an eye. If a long time had passed in the outside world, not only would he be separated from Xia Xiaochan, but he wouldn't even be able to go to the glass sky. Han Fei couldn't care less. He immediately calmed down, ignored the nothingness, and said to himself, return. Hum Creek. Han Fei saw darkness appear in front of his eyes. The next moment, a lot of people appeared in front of him. Some of these people were kneeling, some were standing, but most were sitting cross-legged. Huh? Han Fei took a closer look. Huh, isn't it the Bronze Gate? Xia Xiaochan is still standing there. Wu Hao is still standing first. At this moment, everyone's gazes were fixed on the Bronze Gate. Within the white light, a black-robed figure stood proudly, as if he had come from the unknown, from the void, from a faraway place, causing everyone to involuntarily hold their breath. Hiss, there was a lot of exclamations. Someone exclaimed, why is it him? Where is the power of Tao? A half-king was shocked. Not good, the pressure is fading rapidly and weakening. Han Fei couldn't help but look up at the Bronze Gate above his head. The gigantic door was slowly closing. Besides, a layer of white mist gradually appeared on the Bronze Gate. In other people's eyes, it was white mist, but Han Fei stood next to it and watched the Bronze Gate gradually fade in the void with his own eyes. After about 10 minutes, there was no Bronze Gate here at all. There was nothing at all. At this moment, the pressure was gone, and everyone's strength was directly restored to the peak. Han Fei couldn't help but feel a headache. He said, if I tell you that I didn't do it, would you believe me? Humph. Someone sneered. You're already a half-king. Didn't you do it? Han Fei thought to himself, yes, it's hard to explain the fact that I crossed from the peak of the Venerable Realm to the half-king realm. If I didn't do anything, how did I break through to the half-king realm? However, the fact was that I didn't do anything. Han Fei felt that as soon as he entered, the class was over. I came out after the class was over. Who could have expected that I would break through to the half-king realm in just 10 minutes? Chapter 1794. As soon as Han Fei came out, the Bronze Gate disappeared, which was equivalent to cutting off everyone's opportunity. This time, Han Fei had really angered everyone. However, Han Fei's strength couldn't be underestimated. In any case, this was a freak who could rush into the Bronze Gate. It wouldn't be easy to defeat him. Song Kaiyuan said to the people around him, listen up, none of you are allowed to take action. No. Some people from the 100 demon race and the ocean human race were eager to try. Beitang Xian and the others from the Wuji heaven also narrowed their eyes, not knowing what to do. But then, everyone found that behind Han Fei, the mist disappeared, and a broken void appeared. Han Fei looked back, only to hear a BAM, and the void was shattered. Swish, 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 streaks of light flew out. Because they were too fast, some were embedded in the rock wall, some fell into the blood pool, and some were swallowed by the blood toads above the blood pool. Most of them were intercepted in midair by these people in front of the bronze gate. Someone holding an ancient long sword shouted, "It's the key to the imperial palace." So many of them, at this time, as many as 300 people flew over and fought for the keys. Many people selectively forgot Han Fei. Fighting for the key to the imperial palace became one of their excuses. A half-king thought, "I'm not going to fight for that person. One look and I can tell that this guy isn't easy to deal with. Forget it." Among the humans on the seabed, Shen Yu shouted, "Don't fight with this person. This person is so strong that ordinary half-kings are no match for him." Xia Shaochan grabbed the hexagon starfish in one hand and appeared next to Han Fei, asking with concern, "Are you okay?" Han Fei shook his head. When he sensed the half-king aura on Xia Shaochan, he couldn't help but say, "I'm fine." "How was your breakthrough?" Xia Shaochan nodded. "I don't need to go through a tribulation. I have all the resources I need. I wanted to consolidate my cultivation with the power of Tao, but you came out before I could." Han Fei hurriedly said, "Don't use it. Don't use it. The power of Tao is much better than consolidating your cultivation." Hearing Han Fei's exaggerated description, Xia Shaochan couldn't help but be shocked. Is the power of Tao really so useful? While everyone was fighting, Han Fei sent a projection to the ice lotus. Crack, crack, crack! Someone was charging at the snow god's temple, and the ice lotus was blooming. Pfft! Holy child Shuizhan reappeared in front of everyone. Everyone saw that this guy actually used his finger as a sword, and the tip of the sword was intertwined with spiritual energy. With a puff, a heavenly talent of the 100 Demon clan was pierced through by Han Fei. Icy snow chilling used Snowmorn to land the killing blow. This person's divine soul was frozen solid. Han Fei punched in the air and blasted the elite of the 100 Demon clan into pieces. Buzz, buzz, buzz! The battle only lasted for a few breaths of time before the underground world began to shake. Cracks had appeared on the supposedly incomparably hard underground mountain. In the blood pool, the blood tumbled. The water in the blood pool began to rise slightly. Someone was horrified. Not good. The space here is about to collapse. We can't stay here for long. Someone's face changed greatly. If you want to fight, let's fight outside. Otherwise, we'll all die here. Many people glanced at Han Fei before leaving, wondering to themselves, what the hell did this guy do? How did he collapse this place? Han Fei was also puzzled. What the hell does this have to do with me? Besides, I haven't even seen the undersea heavenly palace yet. Why is it collapsing? Han Fei was speechless too. He exchanged a look with Xia Shaochan. Let's go. Let's talk about it outside. To leave this place, they would have to use small wooden boats. All the people here were half-king realm experts. How much could a small wooden boat carry? These were just ordinary wooden boats. If they were hit by a half-king realm expert, they would be smashed into pieces in an instant. Therefore, it was not uncommon for people to bombard each other on the surface of the sea. Someone was bombarded by multiple people at the same time. The boat collapsed and he fell into the blood pool. That person still wanted to struggle out with his strength, but it was as if the mountains and rivers were crushing down on his body. He was stunned and couldn't jump out of the pool. Following that, the scene didn't look good. From all directions, countless blood scabs surged towards the man. In the blink of an eye, above the half-king realm expert, blood scabs piled up like a hill. That half-king realm expert was hopeless. At this moment, Han Fei and Xia Shaochan were also traveling by boat. Han Fei punched the blood pool and the boat flew fast. If Xia Shaochan wanted to leave, no one from the mermaid clan would attack her. But in addition to the mermaid clan, there were also the human clan, the 100 Demons clan, and the undersea human clan. As soon as Han Fei entered the bronze gate, he almost offended everyone. No matter whether he got anything good or not, everyone thought he got a treasure. At this time, Xin Yu, who had been robbed by Han Fei and Xia Shaochan, sneered at Han Fei. I admit that you are strong, but this is not the outside world. Petrify me. Shen Yu knew that she was no match for Han Fei. However, there was no need to be fair when fighting here. Shen Yu used her unique skill and directly petrified the boat under Han Fei's feet. After this blow, the hull of the boat naturally lost its floating characteristic. Han Fei didn't have time to activate the restrictive spell here. So half of their boat directly sank. Han Fei sneered. You want to stop me with such despicable means? Kill. Han Fei made a fist seal, and with the support of the invincible Taoist aura, he smashed over. Wherever he passed, the strong people retreated. This punch was so fierce that most half-king realm experts felt that they couldn't resist it after seeing it. Shen Yu sneered. Humph, no matter how strong you are, so what? In front of Shen Yu, a dark void opened up. All the power of Han Fei's punch fell into it. After Han Fei's boat turned into a stone boat, it attracted a lot of people's attention. A mermaid clan expert shouted, Your Highness, I'm here to save you. Some human experts secretly activated their soul skills and attacked Han Fei. Among them, one of the soul skills was a soul knife, which cut the soul directly. Bam! Han Fei's soul power was not weak either. The soul leader of 100 beasts shattered this knife head-on. He couldn't help but look at Beitang Xian of the Wuji heaven. Beitang Xian's heart did a flip. Did he find out that I attacked so secretly? What a keen insight. In addition to Beitang Xian, in fact, Han Fei also felt a soul bombardment technique from the mermaid clan. Han Fei took out the embroidery needle and casually launched another heavenly god stab, shattering this soul attack. Rise! Han Fei and Xia Shaochan jumped up at the same time. In the next moment, a small wooden boat appeared beneath their feet. Huh! Shen Yu and the others were stunned. Damn, where did this small wooden boat come from? Would there be more than one of these ships? Han Fei grinned and said, There's a restrictive spell here. At this moment, all the combat skills above the blood pool that had been full of strange light were extinguished. Han Fei's fist shadows activated with spiritual energy and bombarded the blood pool. Once there was a restrictive spell, many people's techniques couldn't be used. In terms of physical combat power, how many people could be Han Fei's opponent? Someone exclaimed, My technique can't be used anymore. Someone was shocked. Not good, my technique also has a problem. Someone hurriedly said, My technique can't run smoothly. There's something wrong with this space. Han Fei grinned. The small boat under Han Fei's feet rushed like a sharp arrow. Because he had used the knife-drawing technique, Han Fei held a short knife and slashed with all his strength, and the knife light cut through the entire blood pool. Wherever the knife passed, the waves were diverted. Shen Yu had no choice but to use the void technique again. When he activated the technique, Han Fei discovered that it turned out to be a king's technique. No wonder it could resist the restrictive spell. This was not Shen Yu's own ability. But just when Shen Yu thought Han Fei couldn't kill him, he felt that the restrictive force of the void suddenly disappeared. And Han Fei's slash flashed and crossed his void barrier. Puff! Han Fei had just comprehended the power of the laws. Even if Shen Yu was extremely talented, how could he resist it? Shen Yu was directly cut into two pieces by Han Fei. Swish! Han Fei flashed through the void with his boat. Everyone was shocked. This person is so fast. Shen Yu was cut in half, but his consciousness was still there. When he saw Han Fei suddenly appear, he couldn't care less and exploded himself. Rumble, the self-explosion of a half-king directly caused the entire blood pool to shake. For a time, all the half-kings used their own techniques to protect themselves, causing the battle here to be in a stalemate. Han Fei frowned. It's a pity. This person used the power of his self-explosion to send a part of his power out. I can't kill him in this blood pool. Shen Yu ran away, which made Han Fei very uncomfortable. If it weren't for the blood pool, Shen Yu would have been dead long ago, and he wouldn't have had the chance to play these tricks. Shen Yu escaped with a wisp of his soul. At this moment, although Han Fei wanted to immediately turn the spearhead and directly attack Beitang Xian. But at this moment, the entire bottom of the sea was full of blood. The blood was flying all over the sky, and the water of the blood pool was splashed everywhere. In the melee, Han Fei was attacked by dozens of soul attacks one after another. And when Han Fei was dealing with Shen Yu just now, Xia Shaochan was dealing with these soul attacks. Xia Shaochan said, "Someone in the mermaid clan also wants to kill me." Han Fei nodded. "I found it. It seems to be that woman." Han Fei looked in one direction through the blood curtains. Xia Shaochan said, "Mermaid Xiao Xiao, I know this person. I have never been on good terms with her. I didn't expect that this person dared to attack me." Han Fei said, "Let's not worry about this. The space here is too narrow. We'd better leave here first." Chapter 1795. In fact, Han Fei could still fight as long as he projected himself. Even if he didn't project himself, he still had many powerful techniques to use. However, when he was Saint Child Shuizhan, he had exposed part of his strength. There were too many people here, and he didn't know who saw through Shuizhan's identity. Han Fei didn't want to expose various combat skills and weapons such as the infinity water, so he didn't plan to fight in the blood pool. Except for the blood pool, Han Fei felt he could fight anywhere. Bam! 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 Han Fei didn't use the infinity water, and the invincible will envelop the entire boat. Han Fei slapped the blood pool with his palm, and the wooden boat flew out as fast as an arrow. Because of Han Fei's strength, if he wanted to leave, those people wouldn't even have a chance to stop him. Xia Shaochan said, "Don't go far. Block the exit of the blood pool and rob whoever comes." Han Fei couldn't help but take a breath. "You are even more anxious than me." Xia Shaochan said with an ugly face, "Just now, at least a dozen or 20 people attacked us. How can we let them pass if we don't make them pay?" Han Fei grinned. "That's a good idea." Above the blood pool, the wooden boat flew, and the half-kings rushed to the entrance. However, what made many people puzzled was that at the entrance, there was a grayish-white fog that had appeared out of nowhere. The mist was light, and people didn't care about it, thinking it was caused by the turbulence here. However, when most people walked to the entrance of the blood pool, they saw two people, one in black and one in white, blocking their way. A woman from the Grand Purity Palace said unkindly, "Are you going to stop more than 300 of us on your own?" However, Xia Shaochan said, "By Muling, Situ Yuhong, mermaids, listen to my order." In the crowd, Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong raised their heads. "Your Highness, what can I do for you?" The remaining 50 merfolk race experts received the order and quickly gathered together. In the next moment, Xia Shaochan said, "You Xiao Xiao offended her superior and dared to attack me? Take her down." Quite a number of mermaids and mermen paused. This Xiao Xiao is not an ordinary mermaid. Besides, she was extremely strong, on the same level as Bai Muling and the others. Yu Xiaoxiao's expression suddenly changed. "I've been very careful. When did I expose myself? Besides, Xia Shaochan dares to take me down. What does she want to do?" Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong immediately took action. How could Xiao Xiao dare to fight against the two powerful warriors, and over 50 demi-kings of mermaids and mermen waiting by the exit? She shouted, "Ming Zhu, you dare to kill me? My master won't let you off." Xia Shaochan snorted coldly. "Even if your master is here, he has to call me princess. You Xiao Xiao. Today, if I tell you to die here, then you will die here." Hearing this, Yu Xiaoxiao's face changed drastically. In her eyes, Xia Shaochan was just a bit brainless before. Xiaoxiao's Yu Xia, she as she was. As she wanted. She retreated quickly and shouted, "It's fine if you want to kill these people, but you want to kill me as well?" Yu Xiaoxiao turned her head and said coldly, 36 black heavens, do you want to die?" Yu Xiaoxiao turned her head and said coldly, 36 Xiantian cultivators, why are you still not charging in? Do you want to die? In fact, Beitang Xian of the Wuji heaven had already prepared an excuse. He said, this is your merman race's own matter. Why are you blocking our way? Are you going to start a war? Xia Shaochan looked at Han Fei, and Han Fei chuckled. Start a war? From the moment you attacked me, it was already a war. What? Have you forgotten what you just did? Beitang Xian's face changed drastically. Did he find out? However, even if Han Fei found out, what could he do? He admitted that Han Fei was strong. But no matter how strong he was, he couldn't be a king. Besides, Han Fei was blocking so many people, and the blood pool was moving. The situation was critical. At this moment, Han Fei blocked the door, which obviously angered everyone. Beitang Xian shouted, everyone, the blood pool has been overturned, and a catastrophe is coming. This person is clearly a tyrant of the mermaids who wants to destroy the 36 black heavens. In the eyes of the mermaids, even the 100 demon clan and the sea human clan are just mixed bloodlines. We have more than 250 people. Why should we be afraid of them? Let's attack together. Han Fei knew that it was not easy to block these people. In fact, even if a real pioneer sea state was here, such as the White Armor Emperor, even if he went all out, he could only kill dozens of people at most in 10 minutes. The number couldn't be any higher. Half-step monarchs weren't easy targets, not to mention that those who could come to the land of the fallen monarchs were all outstanding figures of the major factions. Even in clear sky heaven, that destitute Zhao Jin, his strength was actually extraordinary. It was just that he met him. Now, Han Fei was blocking the door, and more than 200 people were charging at him. From their point of view, blocking the door meant taking their lives. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to kill them. There were only about 50 mermaids. Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong looked at Han Fei and thought, brother, whose side are you on? We have 50 people, we can't hold them off. Someone shouted, Your Highness, it's dangerous. At this moment, more than 200 half-kings were surging over, and their attacks were fierce and thrilling. Could the king resist them? Han Fei didn't know. Anyway, he couldn't resist them. Almost all the people here were here. Those who should have taken action had already taken action, and only a few of them were watching. When these people were only a few hundred meters away from Han Fei said softly, explode. BAM, 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 BAM. However, he saw a faint mist drifting around these people, which unexpectedly exploded with a loud bang. In an instant, a large expanse of gray mist, under the impact of the explosion of endless water vapor, broke the defense of these people. Ew, ew, not good, poisonous gas. Damn it, what's that smell? This is a strange poison. It can penetrate into the body through the skin. EW, it stinks. What the hell is this poison? At this moment, the 100 demon clan, the sea human clan, the 36 immortal palaces, whoever was contaminated by it all began to retch. They were bleeding from their eyes, nostrils, and ears, which looked extremely horrible. Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming of the 10,000 Poison Heaven were talking to each other telepathically while retching. Bai Jingjiu said, Ew, senior brother, it's so poisonous. This poison directly poisons the soul. It's definitely an ultra-quality poison. EW. Dong Fangming said, Junior brother. EW. This is not poisonous, but it does have a great impact on the soul. EW. If it's combined with soul poison, it will be extremely poisonous. EW. Bai Jingjiu said, hurry up and collect the poison. EW. When other people were retching and their strength plummeted, Han Fei saw that 2 people were collecting the stink into his sun moon shell. Wasn't it Bai Jingjiu? Han Fei was lost for words. Han Fei was speechless. The people of the 10,000 Poison Heaven are really interesting. Don't you find it stinky? Han Fei thought to himself, since they're still trying to get this stench in such a situation. It seems that this thing must be an extremely rare poison material for them. He wondered if the stink could be sold as poison. If it could, he would be rich. Spiritual energy protective covers were unfolded one after another. However, it was easy to break a spiritual energy protective cover. Han Fei flicked his fingers and cast 10,000 knives in one. Because the place was very narrow, the blade purgatory was immediately formed. At the moment he cast this skill, some people in the distance who hadn't taken action were stunned. Among them was Song Kaiyuan of the Taishian heaven. Behind Song Kaiyuan, his junior sister, Mui Shui Sisi, couldn't help but ask in surprise, "Senior brother, what kind of great skill is this? Or is it a weapon? Why do I feel that it seems to be?" Song Kaiyuan said, "Let's talk about it when we get back." Mui Shui Sisi's heart did a flip. "Can we still go back?" Song Kaiyuan scoffed. "Look at you. Have you forgotten what their slogan is? Clank, clank, clank. Bam. Bam. Bam." Han Fei's blade purgatory could at least break the spiritual energy protective covers of a group of demi-kings whose strength had been greatly reduced. As for some spirit gatherers, they could block auras, which was normal. Han Fei didn't care. Han Fei cackled. "Vengeful ghosts take souls, ghosts take lives. The valley of the living dead, the black and white ghosts come to the sea again. Money opens the way, resources buy lives. Transactions on the spot, no credit allowed. All of you, pay up." The group of more than 50 mermaids, seeing the many demi-kings trapped by the array, all looked at each other in bewilderment. What kind of people did their princess hang out with? The two of them poisoned more than 200 people. Who would dare to believe such a thing? Bai Muling glanced at Sita Yuhong. "Do we need to help? Challenge them?" At this moment, Sita Yuhong had an emotional expression as he said, "Princess is still the princess of our merfolk royal clan after all. None of us were poisoned. Of course, we should challenge them." Sita Yuhong roared, "All of you, pay up obediently." Bai Muling shouted, "The blood pool is about to collapse. Do you still want to get out?" In the crowd, Beitang Xian roared, "Asshole. EW. How can the 50 of you resist more than 200 people? EW. Everybody, don't panic. Let's work together to break this blade domain. Let's go." What Han Fei feared most was this kind of head-on confrontation. Even though his strength had been greatly improved, if more than 200 demi-kings attacked him at the same time, he wouldn't be able to resist them. These were not one or two cabbages, but more than 200 demi-kings. After a round of attacks, he could only intercept and kill a few at most, and the rest would have to run. Therefore, Han Fei didn't panic. It seemed that he had to increase the dosage. Han Fei waved his hand, and a large amount of gray liquid bloomed like a river. The more than 200 people who were about to charge at him all retreated the moment they saw the gray river. Damn it! It was just gas just now, and now this guy has created a river. Who the hell can resist this? Immediately, someone shouted, "Fellow cultivator, do you really want to force us to die here?" Han Fei shouted, "I said, pay up. Don't you understand? Pay up." Chapter 1796. Han Fei was extremely arrogant. At this moment, 10,000 people couldn't get out. Han Fei roared, "It's true that I can't stop all of you, but you can have a try, right? If you're not afraid of the stench. Today, I will leave my words here. Everyone can leave after throwing a key to the Arch Palace. But the Grand Pure Palace, the Wuji Palace, and the Golden Crow Palace, if you don't throw down your Sun Moon shells, you won't be able to leave today." At this time, the blood pool was rolling. Everyone had to resist the stench, avoid the bloody toads, and avoid the collapse of the void above the blood pool. However, no matter how critical the situation was, it had nothing to do with Han Fei. Han Fei sneered. "I've made it clear that I'm targeting the three of you. Fuck you. How dare you sneak attack me? Arrogant." The 5 disciples of the Grand Pure Palace all drew their swords. However, Han Fei didn't even look at them and threatened, "This blood pool is about to capsize." Many people's faces changed. At this time, Han Fei needed someone to flatter him. Song Kaiyuan took a step forward. "Fellow Taoist, in the Soul Burial Valley, we have taken out all our belongings. This time, I'm afraid we're really short of money. The Grand Xian Palace, the Sword God Palace, the Glass Palace, and the Wuliang Palace, each will offer a key to the Imperial Palace. How about that? But can you move this treasure away? I'm afraid I'll be stabbed to death by it." Song Kaiyuan nodded at the infinity water and smiled at Han Fei. Han Fei was surprised. Did this person recognize the infinity water? Yes, he smiled so calmly as if he had seen through everything. Han Fei immediately rolled his eyes and grinned. "Look. This is what it means to negotiate with each other. This is called friendly negotiation. The Grand Xian Palace, the Wuliang Palace, the Sword God Palace, and the Glass Palace, please leave quickly." This time, the Grand Xian Palace and the other 3 immortal palaces, led by Song Kaiyuan, went straight to the exit. The half-kings watched Song Kaiyuan throw out 4 keys to the Imperial Palace. Han Fei deliberately opened a way for them to leave with the grey water mass. The next moment, Bingxue Chuling and Saint Child Shuizhan rushed forward. Shuizhan turned his hand and took out 4 keys to the Imperial Palace. 4 people from the Snow God Palace. Han Fei opened the door. "Okay. Please leave." Xiahai of the Golden Crow Heaven was enraged. He roared, "Ridiculous. Do you really think you're invincible just because you entered a door? Everyone, there are so many of you here, yet you've been intimidated by these 2 people? Kill them all." This time, even Beitang Xian didn't utter a word. In his heart, he said, "You idiot, they have already declared that they want to deal with our 3 families. Would others become enemies with this person for the sake of the Grand Pure One, limitless supremacy, and Golden Crow immortal palaces?" Instantly, someone said, "Fellow Taoist, my clear sky has 2 people." Someone held up the key to the Imperial Palace. "Fellow Taoist, there are 4 of us from Brahma Intian." Sang Hongyu called out, "Fellow Taoist, I'm Dragon subduing Heaven's 5 people." At this time, someone from the 100 Demon clan said, "Fellow Taoist, our 100 Demon clan has 62 people." "As you said, 62 keys to the Arch Palace?" Bai Muling immediately transmitted her voice over. "The 100 demons don't have a good relationship with us. It doesn't matter if they're an inferior race." Han Fei remained calm. "Fuck, do you really think I'm a mermaid?" Han Fei said solemnly, "As I said, today, I'm only targeting the Grand Pure Palace, the Limitless Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. Everyone else can go. If we leave this place, we'll still be enemies. At that time, we'll decide who's stronger." Hearing this, the half-kings of the 100 demons immediately stepped forward. The keys to the Arch Palace were thrown out one by one. Han Fei's way was open. No matter which force you were from, he would let whoever paid the money go. Bai Muling looked at him. "This guy, even if you don't destroy them, you should at least collect more. 1 key to the Arch Palace? What's the big deal? Is this a form of friendship?" However, Bai Muling didn't know Han Fei's means at all. A key to the Arch Palace was quite precious in the outside world. However, this was the place where the kings died. In a life-and-death situation, who would hide it if they could use it to save their lives? Of course, this was mainly because Han Fei didn't ask for much. Otherwise, if he really asked for all their belongings, Han Fei wouldn't be able to stop them even if he had the stench. But now, these people were afraid of the stench and always comforted themselves that it was worth it to exchange a key to the Arch Palace for a chance to leave. The 100 demons left, the Seabed human clan followed suit, and the other major immortal palaces of the 36 immortal palaces also left. They were all half-king realm powerhouses. Although it was not easy to find the keys to the underground palace in the place where the kings died, they could still find one. In fact, everyone more or less had a few in their pockets, or even more. It didn't matter if they handed over one. And Beitang Xian and the others could only watch the others leave, but they couldn't do anything about it. Here, there were 5 from the Grand Pure Palace, 4 from the Limitless Heaven, and 3 from the Golden Crow Heaven. There was also Yu Xiaoxiao, who Xia Shaochan wanted to kill. In total, there were as many as 13 half-kings. However, 13 half-kings didn't give them the slightest confidence. There were more than 50 people on the opposite side. For the mermaids and humans, they were sworn enemies. Han Fei's plan was to kill the Grand Pure Palace, the Limitless Heaven Palace, and the Golden Crow Heaven Palace. They occupied 3 of the top 4 immortal palaces. Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong couldn't help but suspect that Han Fei probably had a deep grudge against these powerful immortal palaces. He was going to kill them all. Xia Shaochan said to him via voice transmission, "Are you sure you want to kill them all?" Xia Shaochan thought that Han Fei was a human being after all, so he would definitely do things from the perspective of humans. Even she had always regarded herself as a human being. She had always felt that she was incompatible with the mermaids and mermaids. On the opposite side, a woman from the Grand Pure Palace said, "I don't know who you are, but you should be a human being. Why are you willing to help the mermaids and mermaids kill us?" "Humph," Han Fei sneered. "If Beitang Xian hadn't attacked me just now, if the sword chi of the Grand Pure Palace hadn't sneaked up on me just now, I wouldn't have minded letting you go." Han Fei's meaning was very clear. The problem was that you attacked them. Beitang Xian didn't refute at this moment. "As far as I know, it's not just the 3 of us who attacked you." Han Fei grinned and said, "Because the 3 of you are the strongest. Do you think I care about the other immortal palaces? So, as an adult, you have to pay the price for what you've done. I often rob people. If I'm killed, I can only blame it on my bad luck. If you have the ability, come and kill me." However, Xia Shaochan said, "What are you talking about? All mermaids and mermaids, listen to my order. Kill them all." Xia Shaochan was even more shameless than Han Fei. Just when Han Fei was about to speak, Xia Shaochan looked at him and said, "Villains die because they talk too much." Han Fei, well, as soon as Xia Shaochan gave the order, Situ Yuhong said, "Well, can you take away this stinky water?" Han Fei opened the Sun Moon shell and took back the stinky water. At that moment, Beitang Xian and the others rushed out. More than 50 against 13. What if they ran away? Bai Muling and the others could go back and cultivate in seclusion. TSK, TSK. For the first time, Han Fei felt that it was so comfortable to have thugs under his command. He didn't expect that one day, he wouldn't have to do it himself. At this moment, the murderous intent soared to the sky, the blood pool was turbulent, and cracks were everywhere. However, it did not collapse immediately. Instead, the pool of blood began to surge everywhere, and the bloody toads crawled all over the place. After more than 10 minutes, the bottom finally collapsed. The mermaids and Beitang Xian and the others also fought to the entrance. However, this time it became 50 against 8. In this short span of 30 breaths, 5 people had fallen. None of them were from the mermaids and mermaids. Among them, 2 were from the Grand Purity Palace, 2 were from the Golden Crow Heaven, and 1 was from the Wuji Heaven. Bam! Beitang Xian killed 2 people with a single slash. Although the 2 of them could still be reborn from a single drop of blood, the combat power of a heavenly talent was highlighted at this moment. Suddenly, Beitang Xian roared, "If you want to kill me, let's see if you have the ability. I'd like to see who can resist my king's attack." At Beitang Xian's neck, a jade pendant shattered. In an instant, a terrifying and monstrous power shook the wilderness. Han Fei, who was watching the show, suddenly changed his expression. This guy's king's attack is different from others. It's so powerful. Han Fei took a step forward, activated the invincible golden body, and his strength soared to the pioneer sea realm. There was also an array mark on the tip of his fist. The main thing was that after the decomposition rate of his spiritual energy reached 100%, Han Fei could almost perfectly release the power in his spiritual energy. Yes, his power of Tao was 30% stronger. And at this time, Han Fei saw a 100-meter tall man's phantom glance over. The man said, "Humph! Mermaids and traitors of the human race, how dare you bully the Wuji heaven? How dare you?" Bai Muling immediately shouted, "Retreat! Retreat quickly! It's the Wuji heaven monster, Yun Tianhe." Han Fei thought to himself, what the hell is this Yun Tianhe? However, Han Fei had already burst out with all his strength. It seemed that this Yun Tianhe was indeed extremely powerful, so Han Fei even used the chaotic energy. Waves of air soared into the sky, and the tremendous power of 100,000 waves hit the sea. Xia Shaochan was shocked to see this and also threw out a jade slip. Unfortunately, she was half a beat slower than Han Fei. Bam! Under the undersea heavenly palace, this maze building was instantly smashed into pieces under the power of Han Fei's fist. And when Yun Tianhe flipped his hand, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Han Fei felt that billions of waves were crashing at him. Bam! Han Fei retreated 100 kilometers, and his body smashed layers of seabed rocks. Han Fei's body was badly mutilated, and hundreds of bones were broken. This time, he was really wounded. And the power of Yun Tianhe's attack, after defeating Han Fei and facing the power of Chen Huangdian's attack, finally dissipated. However, immediately afterward, the Grand Purity Palace burst out another king's attack. Xia Shaochan was extremely fast. She had already come to Han Fei and asked anxiously, "How are you?" Han Fei said, "Damn it! Damn it! Why is this guy so strong? I haven't been so seriously injured for a long time. Let me recover first." Xia Shaochan heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Han Fei was still so talkative. Turning her head, Xia Shaochan was furious. "Keep fighting and kill them all." Chapter 1797. Fortunately, Han Fei had an indestructible golden body, and every bone in his body had spirituality and was covered by his soul. Therefore, even if every bone in Han Fei's body was broken, he wouldn't die. Even if Han Fei only had one bone left, he could still be reborn. This was the effect of the phenomenal success indestructible overlord body. Others could be reborn from a single drop of blood, but Han Fei could be reborn anywhere. The heavenly awakening divine technique descended, and Han Fei's body was rapidly recovering. Crack, crack, crack. It only took about 10 minutes for Han Fei's flesh and blood to return, and his bones to repair. His entire being was filled with energy once again. Xia Shaochan asked in surprise, "Are you going to fight him again?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes, I'd like to see how many times he can use that kind of king strike. I don't believe that he doesn't practice king strike. How can he throw such power out casually?" At this moment, the entrance of the blood pool had already collapsed. The bombardment of a large group of mermaids almost flattened the bottom of the sea. Smoke and dust filled the air, and one couldn't see anything except with their soul. When Han Fei and Xia Shaochan came back, perhaps because of the loud noise, they saw a big hand in the air snatching away 5 people and slapping 2 mermaids to death. Seeing this scene, Han Fei was so angry that he stomped his feet. "So what if you're a king? The gate of the king grave hasn't been closed yet. Let's see where you can run to." Then, Han Fei raised his rod and launched a heaven-knocking gate at the big void hand. A beam of light penetrated the bottom of the sea and poked a hole in the big hand. However, Beitang Xian and the others were still taken away. However, Bai Muling, Sita Yuhong, and the others swallowed hard and thought to themselves, "What a fucking god. And he even punched through it." Most of the mermaids were dumbfounded. "Who the hell is this guy? He doesn't seem to be one of us, does he?" Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong rushed over and took out 8 sun moon shells as if they were presenting treasures. Situ Yuhong replied, "Your Highness, we have indeed tried our best. Those people were probably the best batch of disciples in the 36 mysterious heavens. They had a lot of tricks up their sleeves. Even after repeated bombardments, they were still forcefully blocked. But even if they manage to escape, they will definitely be heavily injured. Bai Muling hurriedly chimed in, they'll definitely be heavily injured. I slapped an azure dragon water seal on the golden crow heaven's chest and destroyed a part of its soul. Xia Xiaochan looked into the distance and asked, where is mermaid Xiao Xiao? Bring her up. Bai Muling turned her head to take a look, and immediately, someone brought a half-crippled mermaid over. Situ Yuhong said, Your Highness, Yu Xiao Xiao is the disciple of the #1 king of sea expansion, Long Yujun. If you kill her like this, I'm afraid she'll be targeted by the royal family in the future. Bai Muling also said, Yeah. Your Highness, although Dian Wang is powerful, he is still a member of the royal family. Dian Wang is not the only one who has the final say. We don't have to infuriate Long Yujun for a mere Xiao Xiao. Humph. This woman has tried to kill me more than once. How can I spare her life? Han Fei listened on the side. It seems that Xia Xiaochan will still be ostracized in the mermaid royal family. At least, this Xiao Xiao must have taken advantage of her identity to stir up trouble. As for that Long Yujun, seeing how afraid these people were, it would be difficult for him to get along with them. However, this person dared to murder Xia Xiaochan. He had to die. At this time, Yu Xiao, who was dragged up, sneered. Xia Xiaochan, your position as the princess has always been controversial. If you kill me now, you'll annoy my master and half of the mermaid royal family. Do you dare to kill me? However, when Xia Xiaochan was about to speak, Han Fei stretched out his hand and 2 scimitars appeared in his hand. What were they if not the blades of hope? Puff! The 2 scimitars slashed at Yu Xiao's soul. In a scream, Han Fei grabbed Yu Xiao's neck. What are you? Who gave you the courage to show off in front of me? Yu Xiao didn't know Han Fei. She was fearless because of her identity and the mermaid clan's attitude towards Xia Xiaochan. She wanted to force Xia Xiaochan not to take action. However, she had never met a person who didn't care about the consequences like Han Fei. He took action without hesitation, and his murderous intent was all over her face. Yu Xiao was shocked. Do you know who I am? Xia Xiaochan, how can you tolerate this person? Ah! Han Fei's void lines were about to capture this woman. However, a mark lit up in that person's soul. Suddenly, a big shadow appeared, which seemed to be a giant beast in the sea. As soon as this person appeared, all the mermaids here showed a look of horror. Xia Xiaochan's face also became much paler. Seeing this, Han Fei burst out again. With all his strength, the domineering attack that he had just resisted Yun Tianhe appeared again. However, Han Fei was not facing the figure, but Yu Xiao. No matter what, he was going to kill Yu Xiao. As the saying goes, wolves travel thousands of miles to eat meat. I'll make you feel pain even if I have to. Brat, how dare you? Bam crack around Han Fei, the 6-gate array lit up. But in an instant, it was broken. Han Fei blocked it with a giant shield, and the fish skin around him was spinning, forming a series of arrays. Xia Xiaochan tried to resist with all her strength. However, how could Xia Xiaochan resist this kind of power? Han Fei pushed Xia Xiaochan away with the infinity water. The arrays around him were all shattered by this slap, and he was slapped hundreds of miles away again, blood spurting out wildly. However, at the moment when Han Fei flew out, there was a flash of blue brilliance. Han Fei reappeared unscathed and punched at this phantom again. Originally, when Yu Xiao was punched into pieces by Han Fei, this clone was furious. However, Han Fei launched such a terrifying blow again. This made the clone realize that something was wrong. The man's voice was indifferent. What a great path of time! Brat, how dare you kill my disciple? Your path has come to an end. Bam Han Fei looked at the air disdainfully and pointed at the black shadow. If you have the ability, come to me. What the hell? How dare you be so arrogant here? What's so great about the sea expansion realm? Sooner or later, I'll tear apart your old bones and stew them. Let me show you what it means to be young and strong. Bai Muling, Sita Yuhong, the mermaids and half-kings, at this moment, Bai Muling, Sita Yuhong, and the others were all dumbfounded. Damn it, what the hell are they seeing today? They thought that Han Fei was already strong enough. Being able to enter the Bronze Gate and fight against almost everyone from the major forces, this was no longer what a normal half-king could do. However, today, Han Fei challenged Long Yujun of the Mermaid royal family, known as the strongest in the sea expansion realm. He was an existence who had reached the peak of the sea expansion realm, and it was said that he was about to break through to the king realm. As a fucking half-king, how dare you challenge the strongest king of the mermaids like this? Is it really okay? Xia Shaochan was also a little confused. She knew that Han Fei was strong, but she didn't expect Han Fei to be this strong. That was Long Yujun. She had seen him a few times. This person was frightening just by looking at him. She couldn't help but be a little worried when Han Fei slapped him in the face. However, as Han Fei said, Long Yujun was just a clone after all, and he could attack twice. However, for someone like Han Fei who had mastered the time spell, it was useless. As soon as the phantom of Long Yujun disappeared, they heard Master Hexagon howling, "Help! Han! Black Impermanence, help! Starfish is dying, he's dying!" Everyone couldn't help but prick up their ears. Han what? Han Fei waved his hand casually. A holy light technique fell on the Hexagon starfish. This time, the big starfish was indeed covered in bruises. After all, it was still a peak-level intermediate venerable. How could it block a blow from the strongest king of the mermaids? If Han Fei hadn't blocked it with a lot of arrays just now, and then pushed the Hexagon starfish out, it might have been slapped to death. Perhaps it would be killed by a single slap from the other party. However, Master Hexagon starfish was brainless and almost exposed his name. Just now, he used the Tao of Time, which had already revealed his identity. With the power of these people, according to the Tao of Time, they would be able to find out his true identity soon after he went out. However, Han Fei didn't panic. With his mastery of the Tao of Time, he shouldn't have been noticed. The Time Dragon Carp also said that it didn't matter if he used it for a while. As a matter of fact, the exploration had been completed, those who should be fought had been fought, and those who should be running had run away. Now, it was time to go out. Han Fei looked at Xia Shaochan and said, "Let's go. Go out and continue to hunt. Grand Pure, Wuji, and the others. Let's see if we can find them." Although Bai Muling and Situ Yuhong wanted to keep Xia Shaochan here. With Han Fei, the god of slaughter, they didn't say a word. They didn't want to fight against this guy, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to complain if they were killed. Xia Shaochan grinned happily. "Let's go." Phew, it wasn't until the two of them left that Bai Muling, Sita Yuhong, and even a group of mermaids slowly breathed a sigh of relief, thinking, this god of slaughter is finally gone. Someone couldn't help but ask, "Young Master Bai, young Master Situ. Who is this guy?" Bai Muling snorted. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." The two of them thought, who should I ask? In the outside world, not long after Han Fei and Xia Shaochan came out, Master Hexagon Starfish breathed a sigh of relief. Finally out. "Han Fei, can you heal Starfish again? Starfish is about to make a breakthrough." Chapter 1798. It was only natural that Master Hexagon wanted to make a breakthrough. This breakthrough was mainly because of the king's blow. How could he not panic when he was almost killed? However, Han Fei said, "You can make a breakthrough, but you are not allowed to use the power of your sect. Not even a drop. That power is much more useful than you think." The Hexagon Starfish's 6 big eyes couldn't help but roll. "What's the use?" Seeing the hexagon starfish's sneaky look, Han Fei knew that this guy was up to no good, so he immediately said, "I'll tell you the specific use after you make the breakthrough." The hexagon starfish, Xia Shaochan, was also full of curiosity. However, she only knew that this thing was related to the degree of spiritual energy disintegration. She would make good use of it after this matter was over. The hexagon starfish could make a breakthrough easily because he had too many resources in his sect. Not to mention one breakthrough, even 10 breakthroughs wouldn't be a problem for him. Han Fei was planning to find Beitang Xian and the others after the hexagon starfish's breakthrough was completed. However, Han Fei subconsciously pinched his fingers and scanned with his perception. Immediately, he saw someone stealthily coming this way in an invisible state. Huh? Han Fei frowned slightly. Someone is coming. Xia Shaochan said in surprise, "Someone is coming? Is there something wrong with his head?" The power Han Fei showed was not to be underestimated. Ordinary people wouldn't dare to make the same mistake again. After all, the consequence of doing that was death. Who wouldn't be afraid? But now, there were still people coming here. Didn't these people leave as soon as they left the Seabed Sky Palace? Even if they didn't leave after coming out, they wouldn't fight with each other for the key to the Seabed Sky Palace. Han Fei and Xia Shaochan didn't move and didn't take the initiative to intercept them. Because there were only 2 people coming. In Han Fei's view, they posed no threat at all. After a moment, the 2 people broke through the void and rushed directly towards Han Fei. As soon as the void was opened, Han Fei saw that 2 figures appeared in the slightly distorted void barrier. Han Fei asked, "What are you here for?" However, with 2 ka sounds, the distorted space around these 2 people shattered. The next moment, Han Fei saw an acquaintance appear in front of him. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "So it's Brother Bai. This must be your senior brother, Dongfang Ming, right?" Just now, Han Fei robbed these 2 people. However, just now, Bai Jingjiu threw 2 keys to the underground palace and the 2 of them left. Therefore, Han Fei and Dongfang Ming only met face to face. At this moment, the 2 of them came again, and Han Fei knew what they were up to. Just now, when everyone was vomiting from the stench, these 2 were retching while collecting the stench. He was definitely here for the stench. As expected, Dongfang Ming cupped his hands. "Fellow Taoist, we are from the myriad poison heaven. Fellow Taoist is a human, but you didn't kill them all, which shows that fellow Taoist isn't a bloodthirsty person. The 2 of us are here to ask for something from you." Han Fei said casually, "Guys, you have to pay a price if you want something from me." Dongfang Ming replied, "Understood. It's just a key to the Arch Palace. We can use all our resources to exchange for it." Han Fei and Xia Shaochan looked at each other and thought to themselves, "Are these 2 crazy people playing with poison?" And they were offering to exchange for it with everything they had? As a matter of fact, it was as easy as pie for Han Fei to rob the 2 of them at this moment, because they might possess great poisons. If the myriad poison ancestor gave them special poisons, Han Fei might not be able to resist it unless he used the time technique. Han Fei said, "Oh. It seems that my fragrance for 10,000 kilometers is very valuable in your eyes." Fragrance for 10,000 kilometers. Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming looked at each other and immediately thought of something. Dongfang Ming said, "Fellow Taoist, it's not really fragrance, but just stinky." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "You don't have the slightest sense of humor." Bai Jingjiu said, "Fellow Taoist, now that you know why we're here, can we exchange the stinky liquid?" "Then, can we exchange it for the stinky liquid?" Han Fei nodded with a smile. "Of course we can. But the premise is that you have to come up with enough resources. You've seen the power of my fragrance for 10,000 kilometers. The Half-King Realm cultivators were all annihilated. They couldn't withstand it at all. That's its quality, and it's just a raw material. How powerful will it be if it's made into pills? I can't even imagine it. Blah. So, what are you going to give me for it?" Han Fei asked the last question straightforwardly. You want to take something from me for free? That's impossible. Dong Fangming said, we found a broken sea-quelling bizarre treasure on this trip. I wonder if it can be used as a bargaining chip. Han Fei raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, really? I don't mind. However, Xia Shaochan immediately said, who wants a broken sea-quelling bizarre treasure? It's just a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. I have 2 sets. What about this broken sea-quelling bizarre treasure? Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming were both stunned. Right, this girl was a princess of the royal family of mermaids. How could she not have a sea-quelling bizarre treasure? When the 2 of them were hesitating that they only had 1 trump card, Han Fei said, hey, girl, even if it's broken, it's still a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. Although its value is much lower, what if it can still be used after some repairs? Even if it can't be used, it can still be worth a few ultra-quality divine weapons. It shouldn't be a problem. Dong Fangming hurriedly said, yes, yes. It's definitely worth a few ultra-quality divine weapons. Han Fei grinned and said casually, how about this? Let's not talk behind the scenes. A key to the Imperial Palace can be exchanged for half a kilogram of my fragrance. Are you willing to do that? Half a kilogram? Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming looked at each other in bewilderment. Bai Jingjiu said, fellow cultivator, isn't that too little? A key to the Imperial Palace can only be exchanged for half a kilogram. Han Fei said casually, guys, you're here to do business with me. I don't want to kick you out. But don't forget that we're not businessmen. Han Fei said casually, which made Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming's heart palpitate. This man blocked the way of more than 200 people on his own. He must be very strong. If he really wanted to rob them, the 2 of them might not be able to resist him. Dong Fangming frowned. But a few dozen kilograms are still not enough. Han Fei knew that the 2 of them probably wanted the stinky liquid to refine poison. He didn't know how to refine poison, so he could only use whatever he had. However, the 2 of them were experts of poison. The stinky liquid must be very useful to them. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. How about this? I've always had a good impression of the 13 heavens. I have a good impression of the 10,000 poisons heaven. I know that you're very good at refining poison. How about this? The poisons on your bodies can be exchanged with me. Each poison can be exchanged for half a kilogram of stinky liquid. However, you have to give me at least half of your keys to the Imperial Palace. Really? Han Fei was excited to see Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming. Speaking of resources, they didn't have many. However, when it came to poisons, they had everything they could think of. They were all heavenly talents of the Tao of poison. Who didn't have hundreds of poisons? Immediately, Bai Jingjiu said, fellow Taoist, I have 1,103 poisons. This is 1,103 kilograms. Damn it. Even though Han Fei had been as calm as an old Buddha, he couldn't help but be shocked at this moment. Why did you bring so much poison with you? Aren't you afraid of being poisoned to death? Dong Fangming also beamed with joy. Fellow Taoist, my junior brother and I are on different paths of cultivation. The poisons in my body are also different. I have 1,607 kinds, so I have 1,607 kilograms. Xia Shaochan couldn't help looking at Han Fei speechlessly. Is he crazy? Since when did Han Fei have a hobby of using his hands to poison people? But it wasn't appropriate to ask now, so Xia Shaochan could only stare at him. Han Fei said with a smile, that's easy. The poisons of the 10,000 poisons heaven are highly praised in the entire chaotic ocean. Using it to poison was the most suitable. However, you have to tell me what the different poisons are used for. Only then can I know how to apply the poisons. This time, Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming both smiled confidently. Of course. Poisons are meant to be used anyway. Fellow Taoist, please take a look at the poisons. With a thought from them, thousands of bottles, boxes, jars, and bags appeared in midair. Then, Bai Jingjiu guarded a jade slip and said, "Fellow Taoist, you'll know after you take a look." Han Fei took it and scanned it, only to see a lot of messy records of poisons. For example, the 100-soul wither, a great poison that could corrode the body and contaminate the soul. Eventually, one's soul would fall and it would be impossible for them to be reincarnated. For example, the blood thorns, a strange poison that could cause the blood in one's body to stop flowing and produce blood thorns that could shatter the veins in one's body. There were more than 1,000 different kinds of great poisons like these. Han Fei felt refreshed when he saw it. This time, he had made a fortune. He would definitely visit the 10,000 poisons heaven someday. The fragrance of 1,000 kilometers could be sold at an astronomical price. Han Fei, however, said casually, "That's 2,710 kilograms in total." Han Fei raised his hand, and a large amount of gray liquid floated in midair. Seeing this, Xia Shaochan jumped back a lot. Only Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming's eyes were glued to him as if he was their lover. Han Fei said unhurriedly, "Where's the key to the palace?" Chapter 1799. It was obvious that Bai Jingjiu and Dongfang Ming didn't care much about the key. They were even more obsessed with refining poison. In the end, the two of them took out a total of 9 keys and gave them to Han Fei. Han Fei didn't say that he wanted to see her sun moon shells. In Han Fei's opinion, people from the 10,000 poison heaven were worth befriending. At the very least, it had great value. When his resistance to poison reached an extremely high level, he could research how to increase his resistance to poison to the highest level. No matter what, he had plenty of ways to find the myriad poison lotus seed and whatever 9 poisons treasured silkworm that the myriad poison ancestor mentioned. At that time, once he obtained such a supreme treasure, the 10,000 poison sky would become his storehouse of resources, and he would be able to use them at will. Han Fei said, "Okay, I don't think you have any resources left. Let us part here. If there's a chance in the future, we might have a chance to cooperate." Bai Jingjiu's eyes lit up. He shook his sun moon shell and took out a token with a spider imprint. "Fellow Taoist, if you ever come to my myriad poison sky, just come to my Spider King City's great desolate swamp and show me this token, and you'll be able to find us." Han Fei thought to himself, "Are these two people so fucking innocent? I was just being courteous, and you actually gave me a token. If you dare to give it to me, I have to dare to go too." Just from the name, Spider King City, Great Desolate Swamp, with this kind of name, one could tell with a single glance that it wasn't some good place. Han Fei accepted the spider token politely and thought to himself, regardless of whether it's useful or not, it doesn't take up much space anyway. In the future, I won't look for the two of you. I'll definitely go around and buy drugs. After Bai Jingjiu said goodbye to Dongfang Ming, Xia Shaochan couldn't help but tilt her head. She looked at Han Fei strangely and asked, "Who are you trying to trick by buying so many poisons?" Han Fei curled his lips. "Can't I eat it myself?" Xia Shaochan was speechless. "There are thousands of poisons, and you want me to eat them? Do you think that you are a poison man?" Han Fei didn't tell Xia Shaochan about the heaven spirit detoxifying insect, because he had forgotten about it. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "Actually, here's the thing, after a while." After Han Fei explained it to Xia Shaochan, she exclaimed, "Is the poison disgusting?" Han Fei shrugged. "I don't think it tastes bad. But it's definitely ugly." Xia Shaochan, crack. At this moment, the surging spiritual energy in the hexagon starfish finally stopped. From the looks of it, the breakthrough was successful. From then on, a high-level venerable realm starfish was born. Han Fei believed that as long as this guy was willing, he could quickly become an advanced venerable. In the future, he would have to supervise it more. Otherwise, this starfish would be wasted. At this time, the last danger zone had been explored, and everyone had nothing else to think about. Xia Shaochan finally asked, "What did you experience behind the bronze gate? How did you break through?" Han Fei thought to himself, "I really can't explain the Void Temple. Was he going to tell Xia Shaochan that he somehow became the junior brother of the Void Temple after taking a stroll in there? Then, he was inexplicably given a wine gourd by an unknown senior brother. He didn't even know how he made the breakthrough. How did his spiritual energy disassembly rate reach 100%? He still didn't know. Anyway, I just fucking went in and opened my eyes, and everything was done naturally. Only the heavens knew what had happened. Han Fei thought for a while and explained, well, after I went in, I felt as if someone was chanting scriptures in my ear. When I woke up, I had already made a breakthrough. Then, there was darkness in front of me. Then, I came out of the gate. Han Fei thought, let's talk about the 100% spiritual energy disassembly rate later. I haven't figured it out yet. When I figure it out first, I can tell Xia Shaochan about it. Xia Shaochan's eyes widened. Is it that simple? Han Fei scratched his head. I seem to have a dream. In the dream, there were skeletons bigger than mountains and strange fish swimming in waterfalls. Oh, yes, I seem to have picked up a wine bottle. Then Han Fei turned his hand and took out the green wine gourd. Han Fei thought to himself, I guess I'll have to use this gourd in the future. After all, it's a high-quality divine weapon. Xia Shaochan took the green wine gourd curiously and wanted to unplug the cork and smell it. But the next moment, her face turned green. No matter how hard she tried, the wine cork didn't move at all. Xia Shaochan was shocked. This is a treasure. I know, why is there the smell of wine in front of the bronze gate? Most likely, it flows from the gourd. You picked it up. Try pulling it out. Han Fei thought to himself, I haven't pulled it out yet. But I can try. However, when Han Fei tried to pull the gourd out himself, his face changed. Fuck, can you at least give me some face? That senior brother gave you to me so that you could compete with me, right? Han Fei found that in his current state, even if he tried his best, he couldn't even pull the cork out. However, Han Fei thought to himself, I should be able to pull it out when I use my Dao. At that time, it will be equivalent to the power of a king. Otherwise, why would senior brother give me this when I can't even pull the cork out? Han Fei said, let's wait until we go out and have enough time. Now, almost all the secret realms have been explored. I think most people should want to leave the place where the king died. Let's hurry up and see if we can catch the people of the Grand Pure and the Wuji sect. Xia Shaochan looked up at the sky and thought to herself, I won't expose you. I'm afraid your pride can't take it. However, Xia Shaochan was also amazed. The real treasure is obviously this gourd. It doesn't matter if Han Fei got it or if I got it. Suddenly, Xia Shaochan was overjoyed and felt that the air was fragrant. Han Fei was puzzled. What are you laughing at? Xia Shaochan asked, can't I laugh? Han Fei shook his head and waited for the hexagon starfish to stabilize its cultivation. After waiting for half an hour, the hexagon starfish slowly opened its 6 big eyes and said, Starfish, have you made a breakthrough? Sure enough, Starfish is a genius. You made a breakthrough so easily. However, Han Fei said, don't be cocky. You are just an advanced venerable. Why are you so cocky? Come back quickly. We're going to set off. Han Fei took out the nautical panorama and pointed it at Beitang Xian. However, the nautical panorama didn't move. Then, Han Fei pointed at Xia Hai. This guy is also a good guy. It's not too much to kill him. However, the nautical panorama still didn't move. Xia Shaochan couldn't help asking, what's wrong? Han Fei said with an ugly face, there are still 3 days. Have these people all gone out? Han Fei immediately said, not good. Girl, you and the big starfish go into the sea quelling painting first. We won't look for anything. In case the people of the glass sky leave. I have to hurry up and arrange the follow-up itinerary. Han Fei asked them to go into the sea quelling painting, which meant that Han Fei was ready to go out. And when he went out, Han Fei couldn't go with others. Han Fei also had the identity of Shuizhan, which was an excellent camouflage. At this time, Xia Xiaochan immediately said, "Then don't look for trouble. It's more important to get down to business. Let's go to the glass sky first." Han Fei immediately agreed, and then the phantom of mountains and rivers appeared. In the end, Han Fei reminded the starfish, "Master Hexagon, remember. You can't use the power of Tao. Never." The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. "Got it." When Xia Xiaochan and the big starfish both entered the sea-quelling painting, the nautical panorama began to turn, targeting Bingxue Chuling. At least, these people from the snow god's temple wouldn't leave. Han Fei had already told Bingxue Chuling about this. Besides, he still had a clone there. If his real body didn't go, how could his clone leave? In fact, Bingxue Chuling and the others didn't go very far, only about 2 million kilometers away. With Han Fei's hasty speed, half an hour was up. At this moment, Bingxue Chuling was standing on the deck of the big ship, obviously waiting for Han Fei. Swish! As soon as Bingxue Chuling realized that someone was coming, she saw that Han Fei was already standing beside her. Han Fei took Shuizhan's mask and put it on his face. Then, his body quickly deformed. In less than half a second, Han Fei turned into Shuizhan again. Bingxue Chuling was slightly relieved. "You're back." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Where did the others go?" Bingxue Chuling nodded. "Most of them went to the exit. There is only one exit in the land of the King Grave. In every trial of the fallen king land, there would be deaths in the process of exploration, and there would be deaths in the fights between the participants. And one of the most important places to fight is the exit." Han Fei said, "Then let's go. Anyway, there is nothing to explore in the land of the King Grave. It's good to go to the exit first. Otherwise, the peak-level venerables of the snow god's temple will be hunted." Han Fei had another idea in his mind: "I have to make my presence known as soon as possible. At that time, it would be impossible for the black and white ghosts to go out." Bingxue Chuling immediately nodded. "Okay." Han Fei said again, "I'll go to the cabin to rest for a while. I'll come out in 2 hours at most." Han Fei reminded Bingxue Chuling not to go too fast. Bingxue Chuling also had a guess. Han Fei abducted the princess of the mermaid royal family and must be hiding her in the sea-quelling painting. At this moment, he must be in seclusion because of this matter. As soon as he entered the cabin, Han Fei directly set up a seal. Next door was the place where the other 2 half-kings were resting. He'd better not let them disturb him. Swish! Han Fei directly entered Forge the Universe. 4 hours was equivalent to about 5 days in Forge the Universe. Han Fei still had too many questions. Therefore, he needed a short time to think. However, before that, he needed to deduce a technique first, which was the God-deceiving precious technique. Chapter 1800. This God-deceiving precious technique was the technique that Han Fei used to disguise himself as Shuizhan. It was a venerable level, divine quality technique. It was exactly because of this technique that even the kings couldn't see through him. However, he had to deduce this technique now. When he came in, no one knew that there would be a person like Han Fei who killed the heavenly talents of the Grand Purity Palace and the Wuji Heavenly Palace. No one would have expected that someone could rob the venerable ones of almost all the forces on his own. However, after he went out, things were different. The power he showed in the land of the King Grave was so strong that even the kings couldn't kill him with a single blow, and he was strong enough to resist the blow of the master of the Wuji Heavenly Palace. This matter couldn't be hidden. Therefore, the kings would be suspicious when they saw that he didn't come out. Would the God-deceiving precious technique be able to hide it? He really didn't know. At the moment when Han Fei appeared in Forge the Universe, with a click, Gue Sanqing's body suddenly moved. "Who?" the old turtle suddenly said. "Han Fei, where are we?" Han Fei looked at the old turtle helplessly. "Old Yuan, are you okay? We've been out of the Bronze Gate for a long time." "Huh?" The old turtle was shocked. Have we been in there? Han Fei said leisurely, forget it. I was going to ask you what happened. But it turns out that you're even more confused than me. Then, Han Fei repeated what he had just said to Xia Xiaochan to the old turtle. Of course, it wasn't a problem to expose a few more words. Han Fei said, apart from that, I have a vague impression that I heard something about the Void Temple. Wow! What temple? The old turtle jumped up in shock and looked at Han Fei in shock. Han Fei was also dumbfounded. You weren't so surprised when I mentioned the Temple of Time and the Temple of Undying. Why are you so excited when I mention the Void Temple? The old turtle said, are you sure it's the Void Temple? Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm not sure. It's just that these words seem to have appeared in my memory. The old turtle murmured, it has to be the Void Temple. In the era of gods, this name was a terrifying existence. To be precise, it's an ancient existence that has existed since the Great Desolate Era. Han Fei was stunned. No. Wait a moment. Tell me everything you know first. He heard the old turtle say, I also know very little. I only know that the Void Temple is one of the 3 godly temples. However, it was clearly different from the other 2 sacred halls. You know, the Undying Shrine, they practically cover the entire vast ocean. Wherever there were undead, the shadow of the Undying Shrine could exist. At least, there was the faith of the Undying Shrine. As the name suggested, the Temple of Time was related to time, and time was related to the River of Time. It was said that the Almighties in the Temple of Time were people who could see through time. I've had the fortune to see them a few times. I don't want to be enemies with these people. Even if I can beat them, it's best not to fight them. As for the Void Temple. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with the Void Temple? Is it related to space? Hee hee. The old turtle sneered. It has nothing to do with space. The Void Temple is said to be the most mysterious of the 3 godly temples. No one knew where they were. No one knew who they were from the Void Temple. No one knew who they were. No one knew where they came from. In short, everyone in the Void Temple is extremely mysterious. Once, in the era of gods, there was an exposed expert of the Void Temple. Do you know how strong he was? Han Fei listened to the old turtle bragging like a child listening to a story. He asked, how strong was he? The old turtle said, it's not an exaggeration to say that he suppressed this place for 10,000 years. He was invincible under the gods. Hiss, gulp, Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. That was a bit of an exaggeration. That was not the Age of Doom, but the Age of Gods. The Age of Gods suppressed the world for 10,000 years. Damn it, just how strong was he exactly? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what happened later? How was he exposed? The old turtle asked, how was he exposed? Hee hee. It seems that the man pissed off a god and killed a son of a god, a pair of them. Then, the god was enraged. He hunted the man in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. However, that person ran very fast. Later, it is said that the god found a group of gods to help him block the man. In the end, a powerful expert of the Void Temple was attracted. The expert killed the god who hunted the man on the spot. Han Fei said in shock, damn, is it really that shocking? He's already a god, how can he be killed? The old turtle said, this emperor is guessing that there should be a difference in strength between the gods. Otherwise, if everyone is a god and no one can kill him, what's the point? Besides, no one knows what happened in the War of Gods. However, it can prove that gods can die. Gulp. Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. So, did he join this super force by accident? The old turtle said unhurriedly, the Void Temple is said to believe in nothingness. It is even said that they don't even know their own people. That's quite strange. The old turtle didn't understand, but Han Fei felt that he kind of understood it. He entered the Void Temple through the bronze door. After entering, he could only see a shadow, but nothing else. He could only tell that they were some obvious creatures, such as insects, fish, dragons, birds, skeletons, and so on, eldest senior brother. He looked up, only to feel that his head was about to explode, and his eyes, nose, and mouth were bleeding. In any case, he was a member of the Void Temple, but he had never seen anyone. Wasn't that mysterious? Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. The insect said that he would find a way to enter the Void Temple in the future. God knew what he could do. He had nothing except the calabash. As it happened, the old turtle stared at Han Fei and asked, "Is this the calabash you mentioned?" The old turtle pointed at the green wine calabash next to Han Fei, and his eyes widened with curiosity. Han Fei chuckled and said, "What do you think?" But then Han Fei said, "Now is not the time to open it. I still have a lot of things to do. If I drink too much here, I'll sleep for a few years and everything will be over." Han Fei thought to himself, nothing is impossible. A random wine calabash is a high-quality divine weapon. What level is the wine in it? Han Fei sat cross-legged and immediately closed his eyes, ignoring the old turtle. Deduce. It was more important to get down to business first. As for what he wanted to study, he could study it after he was done. A moment later, information popped up in Han Fei's mind. Sky Deception Technique, High-Quality Sea Expansion Realm, Introduction. On the basis of the God Deception Technique, the aura of other people's souls can be found in facial features, voice, aura, pressure, and Tao. The Sky Deception Technique can confuse the other party's mind and deceive them. Deduced art, unknown deduction consumption, 500 strands of chaotic gas. Note, the current deduction limit of the demon purification pot has been reached. If deduced again, it will involve the mysteries of heaven and earth and will damage the demon purification pot. After reading this great technique, Han Fei thought to himself, this time, there should be no problem. After all, it's a great technique of the sea expansion realm, and it also increases luck, pressure, and Tao. Han Fei thought of something. I have to give Shuizhan a Tao. This Tao can't be too weak. Previously, in the Heavenly Fault Ancient Tree, he showed great power. Then, the Tao of Strength. Anyway, he couldn't expose the art of invincibility. Otherwise, he would definitely be suspected at any moment. After spending 2 days studying the Sky Deception Technique, Han Fei was sure that he could master it, and then he began to consider the problem of disassembling spiritual energy. As soon as Han Fei raised his hand, spiritual energy appeared on his fingertips without even thinking. Hiss, the old turtle was stunned to see this scene. Wait, did you create spiritual energy? Han Fei was also stunned. Ah! Didn't I create it before? The old turtle said, No, I created it before, didn't I? The old turtle said, what you created before was a series of processes. Now, what is this? As soon as you raise your hand, spiritual energy is created? Han Fei couldn't help touching his chin and said, what you said makes sense. Why can I create spiritual energy as soon as I raise my hand? But what's the benefit of creating spiritual energy for my fighting? Han Fei seemed to have made a judgment in his heart. With the heavenly opening Tao as the Tao, as soon as he raised his hand, a piece of holy light appeared. In this holy light, there were more than 1,000 points of spiritual energy. At this point, Han Fei found a problem. Just now, when he used the heavenly opening divine technique, he found that there was a problem with the Tao. Han Fei couldn't help asking, Old Yuan, is the Tao everywhere? The old turtle nodded. Yes. Han Fei asked, the Tao is not a specific power, right? The old turtle asked, isn't it? This empress thinks that it should be counted. Otherwise, how can the power of the Tao appear? Han Fei closed his eyes and murmured in his heart, if we are all deceived, and there is no power of the Tao in this world at all, and what exists is only our belief in this Tao. Then, can the power of the Tao be born from our belief? The stronger the belief, the stronger the Tao. If this is the case, then, Han Fei finally knew why there was a Taoist heart. The stronger the Taoist heart, the stronger the Tao. Because the Tao is in the heart, and the heart has the Tao. Han Fei's heart was pounding. Therefore, everyone was sitting quietly in front of the bronze gate to absorb the power of the Tao. In fact, everyone was listening to the eldest senior brother's lecture. The content of the lecture, revealed from the bronze gate, touched everyone's Tao, making the so-called power of the Tao grow in everyone's heart. Yes, yes, that's it, yes. Chapter 1801. Han Fei suddenly understood the true meaning of the Taoist heart. This was what he hadn't understood before. Even though Han Fei had made a great wish, he didn't understand what the Taoist heart was. But now, he understood it. However, this enlightenment required a premise, that was, the degree of disassembly of spiritual energy had to reach 100%. This was because with a single thought, one could create spiritual energy that belonged to one's own path, and multiply one's strength. Even if his degree of disassembly of spiritual energy had reached 99% and he could completely construct spiritual energy, it was just disassembly and understanding of the structure of spiritual energy. However, that was not enough. The last step was, with a thought, the Taoist heart would be born, with a thought, the spiritual energy would change. This thought actually referred to his own Taoist heart. In other words, with a thought, the Taoist heart would be born, with a Taoist heart, spiritual energy would be born. Under this premise, the stronger the Taoist heart, the more powerful the power it could create. The strength of the pioneer sea state was also stronger. Therefore, although Han Fei hadn't become a king yet, he already understood the pursuit of the pioneer sea state, to strengthen his Taoist heart, study the Great Way, and make himself stronger. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the old turtle sympathetically. So what? The king had never understood the true meaning of the Taoist heart. In fact, as long as the degree of disassembly of spiritual energy didn't reach 100%, it was impossible to understand the true meaning of the Taoist heart. How could they understand this step? Han Fei couldn't help but smile. It turns out that no one in this world can disassemble spiritual energy 100%. It's just that people are eager for quick success and choose to make breakthroughs. Among these people, even after many of them reached the pioneer sea state, they still couldn't understand this truth. In other words, they thought that disassembling spiritual energy was only what the venerable realm should do. Therefore, after the pioneer sea state, they never picked it up again. Han Fei couldn't help looking at the old turtle. Old Yuan, have you continued to disassemble spiritual energy after the pioneer sea state? The old turtle said, I've tried, but I didn't succeed. At the end of the pioneer sea state, I disassembled spiritual energy to 99%. However, it didn't work. I've also communicated with the emperors. I only know that those venerable emperors can't disassemble it 100%. Besides, after the pioneer sea state, the Great Way is connected to the Origin Sea. The Origin Sea could create its own Taoist aura. Everything is going smoothly. Han Fei didn't know what to say. This was the transformation of one's thoughts. The last 1% wasn't a method of dismantling at all, but rather a method of thinking. It was related to the Tao heart. However, many people were lost, unable to understand. But did he say that venerable sovereign didn't understand? Han Fei didn't believe it. As a venerable sovereign, how could he not understand this? He had merely listened to a lecture, and the eldest senior brother had solved his problem. It was simply too amazing. Seeing Han Fei's expression, the old turtle couldn't help but say, Don't think I didn't work hard. If it was only this emperor, then so be it. However, none of the emperors could do it. You can't blame me for that. Han Fei slightly shook his head. Okay. At this time, Han Fei had deduced the heaven-deceiving technique, and his combat power had soared. He was in a good mood. Only then did Han Fei briefly check the gains of this trip. Among them, there were 461 keys to the imperial palace alone. If this number were to be made known, these people would probably jump in fright. And among these keys, In addition to the garbage of the imperial palace, there were also a few useful things. One was 13 black-yellow stones, one was a blue-gold key, and one was a piece of green bamboo. This key was the first real key that Han Fei had seen. Han Fei thought it might be of great use. As for the green bamboo, the demon purification pot couldn't see it, so he didn't know what it was. But in terms of quality, it was definitely extraordinary. Therefore, it was listed as a treasure by Han Fei. The others were all bottles, broken stones, broken jade, swords, weapons, and so on. They were just contaminated with the luck of the imperial palace, so they could barely serve as the so-called keys. Of course, there were more than 400 keys anyway. It was important to note that the Snow Ladies had only asked him for 20 keys on this trip to the Fallen King realm. It could be seen that these things were not easy to find. In the next 2 days, Han Fei adapted to his power again and felt the feeling of fighting with the power he created. Only then did he leave Forge the Universe contentedly. During the period, the old turtle asked Han Fei about his spiritual energy disassembly rate. What was Han Fei's spiritual energy disassembly rate? And Han Fei's secret almost made the old turtle pass out in anger. Outside. It had been less than 2 hours since Han Fei went to the cabin for temporary seclusion. When Han Fei came out, Bingxue Chuling was still on the way to the exit. She didn't move fast, or even very slowly. Seeing Han Fei coming out, Bingxue Chuling couldn't help but be a little surprised. She said, "I feel that Celestial Master seems to be a little different." Oh. Han Fei sensed it himself. Maybe it was because he had changed his Dao and wholeheartedly pretended to be Snow Battle. Han Fei said, "Let's go. It's time to show our faces." Hum, hum, hum. The big ship teleported several times and soon came within 200,000 kilometers of the exit. As soon as the big ship arrived, it felt bursts of madness. The impact of power was clearly caused by other people's battles. When Han Fei scanned, he found that there were hundreds of battles at the same time. Near the exit, there was a chaotic battle. All of the major forces were stationed here to oversee the battle. However, looking at the battlefield carefully, he found that there was a sense of propriety in this chaotic battle. Most of the battles were between humans and sea demons, mermaids, and undersea humans. At this moment, the 36 profound heavens of human beings began to be more united. The mermaids, the demons, and the undersea humans also began to stand on the same side. No matter how the major forces fought against each other during the exploration of the land of the King Grave. However, in the end, they still had to be united. Otherwise, they would really fight to the death. For example, some heavenly talents were fighting fiercely with the strong mermaids. Some peak-level venerables were fighting with the demons and undersea humans, shouting at each other. Han Fei's perception swept over and could see that there were less than 1,000 people here, only 700 or 800. He wondered if they hadn't all arrived yet. At this moment, the peak-level venerables of the Snow God's Temple were mingling with the people of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect and the Thunderfire Heavenly Sect, shouting at the undersea humans. When Han Fei's big ship gradually approached, it appeared in everyone's perception. A heavenly talent of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect shouted, "Holy Lady, Lord Saint, come and help." Thunderfire Sky-Shattering Strike, an expert of the Thunderfire Heavenly Sect stood proudly in the void with a thunder hammer in his hand. Wind and thunder gathered and smashed out thousands of lightning arcs, fighting a giant lobster fiercely. An expert of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect, like a phantom, flashed in the void and attacked a super big eel. Han Fei said, "Let's do it. We still have to fight." Bingxue Qiliang was slightly relieved. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and flew straight into the void. She shouted, "Is everyone from the Snow God's Temple safe?" As Bingxue Qiliang approached, the peak-level venerables of the Snow God's Temple were all shocked. Someone responded, "Holy Lady, 14 people have returned. There are still 6 people who haven't returned." Bingxue Qiliang was slightly relieved. At least, these 14 people were safe. Including herself, Chu Yang, Qin Yu, and Han Fei, there were 18 people. This time, a total of 24 people from the Snow God's temple came. It would be acceptable if only 6 people hadn't returned. As soon as Bingxue Qiliang arrived, she saw an expert of the Seabed clan shouting, "Holy Lady of the Snow God's temple, it is said that she has just made a breakthrough. Come on, let me fight you." Behind Han Fei, Chu Yang and Qin Yu had also arrived on the deck. After seeing the situation, the two of them became serious. Chu Yang said, "That man is Iron Claw, the 8-clawed old thief of the Seabed clan. We can't let the Holy Lady take the risk alone. I'll go and help her." Qin Yu added, "The Windcutter Heavenly Sect seems to be struggling. I'll go and help him." The two of them glanced at Han Fei and thought to themselves, this guy may have his own plans. Their status was not as high as Han Fei's, so they'd better not interfere. Han Fei, on the other hand, was looking at the crowd, hoping to take this opportunity to hook up with someone from the Glass Heaven. At this moment, the only fierce battles were between Mu Shui Cece of the Taishian Heaven and a girl from the Glass Heaven. The opponent of the two girls was a rather powerful demi-king of the Seabed clan. At this moment, Mu Shui Cece shouted, "Mu Shi, attack his soul with the 3-foot glass divine sword." The woman called Mu Shi's figure flashed. The void bloomed, and the glass light shone. As she opened her eyes, a colorful light sword went straight to the forehead of the demi-king of the Seabed clan. Wandering God's scorpion stab, a giant scorpion turned over and stabbed fiercely with a green light, piercing the small glass sword in the air. Mu Shui Cece shouted again, "Cece, retreat 3,000 feet. Light stream shield, block the nebula arrow." Mu Shui Cece stepped on the strange formation, and with a whoosh, she appeared 3,000 feet away. She shouted, "Taishian water bind, ice dragon peak." A watercolored cage appeared 10,000 feet high in the sky. The head of the ice blue dragon soared straight into the sky. On the other side, Mu Shi held the light shield and looked at the flowing light falling from the sky. Ripples appeared on her shield, and she spun it at the flowing light. An arrow of light split into 3,000 and shot straight at the Seabed clan expert. In fact, this was just a battlefield. Every battlefield was as exciting as this one. With this level of strength, who wouldn't be flashy when fighting? Huge waves surged, and the sea didn't calm down for a long time. Roar, scorpion tail hook, eye of freezing. The human expert from the bottom of the sea was standing on an ice dragon. His eyes were red as he locked onto Mu Shi. A ray of blue light, like a hook, instantly shot out. Apparently, he was going to trade injury for injury. However, Mu Shui Cece's expression changed drastically. She shouted, "Cece, water glass divine body, quick!" However, Mu Shi was still half a beat slower. In that moment, Mu Shi was dumbfounded. However, the damage to her divine soul didn't happen. When Mu Shi opened her eyes, she saw a man in a snow-white cloak standing in front of her. This person stepped on the void, traveling 1,000 miles with a single step. In an instant, he arrived before the human at the bottom of the sea. Mu Shui Cece was the first to react. Although she was surprised that Shui Zhan would help her, she still reminded him, "Be careful of the blue lightning scorpion venom. This venom is extremely fast. Sword, come." In the eyes of the two women, Han Fei stood still in the void. His 2 fingers were like swords as he pointed at the void. The sea behind him turned into a sword, and the ocean sky sword slashed out, causing spatial cracks to distort as it charged forward. Swish, 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 roar, Han Fei secretly roared. How could the human powerhouse from the bottom of the sea be a match for Han Fei? Being roared by the 100-beast soul eater, his mind went blank. It was at this moment that the sound of pu 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 rang out continuously. This person was instantly torn to pieces. Wow, so strong. Mu Shui Cece and Mu Shi looked at each other in bewilderment. This person didn't go very far in front of the bronze gate. Why is he so strong? Han Fei grabbed the man's divine soul with the void lines. Then he turned around and glanced at Mu Shi indifferently. He raised his hand and pinched an invisible needle between his fingers. If I hadn't come just now, you would have died. Chapter 1802. His soul-destroying needle. Mu Shi's face turned pale and she was a little scared. Mu Shui Cici's eyes widened and she couldn't help but say angrily, these seabed humans are so vicious. They even used soul-destroying needles. How shameless. However, Han Fei said, the winner takes all. How can you say that they are shameless? Mu Shui Cici curled her lips slightly, but Mu Shi hurriedly bowed. Thank you for saving my life, fellow cultivator Shuizhan. I will never forget it. Han Fei threw the soul-destroying needle at her and said lightly, be careful next time. After that, Han Fei floated away without looking back. With a step, he crossed thousands of kilometers and disappeared from their sight. Mu Shi was still holding the soul-destroying needle in a daze, when Mu Shui Cici said, okay, stop looking. She's already gone. So, even your soul has been taken away. Mu Shi blushed and said coquettishly, Cici, what nonsense are you talking about? At this time, Mu Shui Cici glanced at the sun-moon shell that the seabed human expert dropped and immediately grabbed it. Mu Shi exclaimed, Cici, did he forget to take the sun-moon shell with him? Mu Shui Cici was speechless. What do you mean by forget? He didn't take it at all. Seeing that you fought hard for a long time, he specially left it for you. Mu Shi blushed again. Well, I don't think so. I'd better give it back to him. Mu Shui Cici nodded. Yes, he should. He killed this man and saved your life. This sun-moon shell should belong to him. Okay, the battle here is urgent. Let's wait until the battle is over and then return it to him. Well, you can go to the snow god's temple then. If you can ask your master to go with you, maybe you can even get married. Ah Cici, I'm going to tear your mouth apart. On Han Fei's side, the old turtle said, are you sure? Are you sure that she will return the sun-moon shell to you? I'm not sure. However, the education level of the Taishian and Liuli immortal palaces is not bad. These people are kind, and I saved her life. Logically speaking, even if it was to make the Great Tao unobstructed, she would return the sun-moon shell. The old turtle said slowly, but where did the soul-extinguishing needles come from? I didn't see anything. Han Fei grinned. I found it in someone else's sun-moon shell. In any case, the battle just now was so intense that they could only attribute it to their own carelessness and not suspect that I was the one who took out the soul-extinguishing needles. Han Fei searched with his senses, looking around and finally found Xin Yu in a corner near the battlefield of Hundred Flower Palace and Clear Sky. Back at the blood pool, this fellow had escaped. Who would have thought that this guy was still here? He was still hunting here, Han Fei grinned. Since you don't want to leave, don't blame me. Buzz, Han Fei directly used the Gemini divine technique. His white mist body returned, and his black mist body went to the battlefield over there. In this chaotic battle, it was impossible for these people to discover Han Fei's black fog body. Therefore, Han Fei approached it blatantly. In just over 20 minutes, when the black mist body drifted and attached to Xin Yu's body, this guy didn't even notice it at all. And the powerhouses of the Hundred Flower Palace, of course, were good at using demonic plants to fight. Their manipulation skills were very extraordinary. This area had been covered by demonic plants. However, Xin Yu was not a simple person either. Not many people could escape from Han Fei's hands. Even if Han Fei couldn't exert more power because of the restrictions, if it were someone else, he wouldn't be able to escape either. At this moment, a man and a woman from the Hundred Flower Palace, one setting up a spiritual plant trap array, and the other summoning thorns and vines. When the three parties attacked each other, it was like a terrifying sea beast that was released from the sea, extremely ferocious. However, although the offensive of the Hundred Flower Palace was strong, if one looked closely, they would find that in the massive demonic plant jungle, there were blood-colored centipedes crawling everywhere. Large tracts of demonic plants were riddled with holes by the centipedes. The other people of the 100-flower palace were restrained by other people of the seabed. At this moment, Shen Yu smiled coldly and said, "You too, as long as you hand over the resources in your hands, we won't have to fight like this. You humans haven't all arrived yet. Now, the 100-flower palace is even more short of manpower. If you neglect it, I'm afraid you'll be killed." The woman from the 100-flower palace shouted, "Shen Yu, we know you're strong. But you must have been seriously injured before, right? Aren't you afraid that the black and white ghosts will come again? I don't believe you have a second chance to escape." "Ha ha ha," Shen Yu laughed loudly. "The woman in the black and white ghosts is the princess of the mermaid royal family. That man is obviously an expert of your human race. If they dare to show up at the entrance, do you think they can escape if a king intervenes?" The land of the last king was not only accessible to venerables, but also kings. If people knew that Xia Shaochan and Han Fei were together, both of them would be hated by both sides. At that time, it was entirely possible that a king would break the rules and enter this place. However, just as Shen Yu finished this sentence, suddenly a black mist enveloped him. The next moment, a sarcastic voice appeared in Shen Yu's mind, "Do you think you can scare me with a king? Ghosts take your soul, and ghosts take your life. Today, no one will be able to save you no matter who comes." "Who is it?" Shen Yu suddenly turned pale with fright. "How is it possible? He's here. Where is he?" But the next moment, Shen Yu felt that his body was being cut as if thousands of ants were eating his heart. For the first time, he even felt that his divine soul had been broken through. There was an inexplicable force that was locking his soul, and then he couldn't move. Han Fei said leisurely, "No one has ever dared to appear in front of me after tricking me. You are the first. I can't make an exception. So, you shall perish." Bam! A shocking aura burst out from the black mist all of a sudden. The woman from the 100-flower palace was directly shaken back 100 kilometers. The surrounding demon plants and vines were instantly crushed to the ground. At this moment, the two of them were dumbfounded. The woman asked, "Where is Shen Yu?" The man replied, "I don't know. What's that black mist? It looks like demonic power. Is this guy possessed? Did he blow himself up?" The woman was speechless. "No, no. He was slaughtered. His sun-moon shell is gone." Hiss. In an instant, the two hurriedly retreated. This top-notch powerhouse was killed in front of them. It was silent. They didn't even see the shadow of the attacker. It could be seen how terrifying the opponent's strength was. At this time, not far away, on the clear sky's side, a heavenly talent looked over in shock. "Feng Shi, Huaying, you two actually killed Shen Yu. Wow. After we go out, I'm afraid the limelight will surpass the heavenly talents of the inner domain." Huaying said with a black face, "Shut up, Wu Youqi, don't tell anyone about this." The young man called Wu Youqi grinned and said, "What a great thing." Okay. I won't say it. But it's useless even if I don't say it. There will be bystanders who will see the chaotic battle here." Feng Shi sighed leisurely. "Huaying, we can't agree to this. After we go out, we must refute the rumor. Otherwise, our strength and reputation will not match, and the consequences will be very serious." Huaying nodded heavily. "Yes, it can't be the two of us who can easily kill Shen Yu." Han Fei didn't care what the two people from the 100 Flowers Palace thought. He had already merged with the two. At this moment, Han Fei was helping a disciple of the Snow God's palace. At this moment, he killed a peak-level venerable. "Thank you for your help, Lord Holy Child." Han Fei nodded. "Okay. It's okay. This kind of fighting and looting didn't happen all the time. The people of the Snow God's palace didn't take the initiative to attack, nor were they afraid of fighting. Two half-king powerhouses of the 100 Demons clan wanted to test the strength of the Snow God's palace. As a result, Han Fei killed one and Bingxue Chuling seriously injured the other. Immediately, no one came over. Han Fei and the others also got some free time. Outside the king grave. The kings didn't look good, especially the Grand Purity Palace, the Wuji Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. At this moment, on the big ship of the Wuji Heaven, Beitang Xian was seriously injured and sleeping. After more than 3 hours, he finally woke up. When he woke up, he saw the figure in front of him and hurriedly said, "Uncle, I'm out." This person was the leader of the team of the Wuji Heaven, Beitang Xian's uncle, Beitang Xian. Beitang Xian said, "Thank you. Save your life with the last bit of my power. Otherwise, your life will be forfeit." Xia Hai from the Golden Crow Heaven has already told us the details. The human heavenly talents teamed up with the princess of the mermaid royal family to hunt the Grand Purity Palace, the Wuji Heaven, and the Golden Crow Heaven. So far, our 3 palaces have suffered heavy losses. Beitang Xian breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Uncle, it's not that I didn't work hard. That person is extremely strong. He was able to resist a blow from the palace master without dying. I even suspected that his strength has reached the Pioneer Sea state." Beitang Xian Bing said lightly, "We already know this. However, due to the restraint of the kings of the major forces, we can't go in. Now, we can only wait. There are only so many human experts in total. If we look at them one by one, we can see the problem." Beitang Xian Bing didn't dwell on this issue but said, "Tell me about the Bronze Gate." Chapter 1803. 3 days later. Only one of the remaining 6 people from the Snow God's palace came. This meant that the remaining 5 people had already died in the land of King Grave. Han Fei knew that the ratio was not bad. The probability of dying was about 20%, so he didn't feel sorry for the Snow God's palace. By now, the war had basically been settled. They couldn't fight all the time, those who had gone out had already left. At least, the experts at the peak level of the Venerable Realm had all left. Including those from the Snow God's palace, only 4 demi-kings were left. In the last 2 hours, when the major forces were about to leave, there was a slight commotion. For example, the peak-level Venerable of the Grand Purity Palace found that Ji Qin didn't come out. They couldn't believe it. How could Ji Qin have died in the land of King Grave? For example, Bai Muling and Sita Yuhong were still waiting for Xia Shaochan and Han Fei. However, they couldn't wait. For example, the people from the Avalon of 5 Elements were also shocked. Where was Qin Hao of the 5 Elements? However, most of the people chose to travel together. The Demi-King Heavenly Talents of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect and the Thunder Fire Heavenly Sect gathered. These 3 sects were close to the Divine Palace, so they had a good relationship. The Heavenly Talents knew each other too. Li Xuanfeng of the Wind Cutter Heavenly Sect said, "You too, let's go together. It seems that the exploration of the Snow God's palace is going well this time. It seems that not many people died." Bingxue Chuling nodded. Maybe they were just lucky. Outside. Swish, when people came out of the exit of the land of King Grave, the king's perception swept over. The sea surged and an invisible pressure enveloped the sea. Han Fei, Bingxue Chuling, and the others went straight to the snow god as soon as they left the land of King Grave. Han Fei sensed that several kings' perceptions swept over him. However, he wasn't afraid at all, nor did he panic at all. On the snow god. The snow lady stood on the deck. At the stern were the disciples of the snow god's palace. The snow lady glanced at them casually. "You too, follow me." No one would doubt that. After all, they were going to find the key. After returning, the key was immediately handed over to the palace master for safekeeping. This was a matter of course. Naturally, it would not be appropriate to directly hand it over on the deck. The 2 of them followed the snow lady into the cabin. The snow lady said, "Long story short, you caused a huge commotion at the king perished land. It's fine if it's just causing trouble, but the problem is, what's going on between you and the princess of the Merfolk royal family?" Han Fei said casually, "My woman." Snow Maiden, the Snow Maiden was speechless. How many days had it been? You managed to woo the princess of the merfolk royal family. However, the two women immediately realized that it shouldn't be so simple. Especially Bingxue Chuling. She guessed that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan knew each other from the beginning. Where did they meet? That was something worth pondering. Of course, the Snow Lady was only greeting him. She said, "Has she returned to the mermaid royal family?" Han Fei shook his head. "She's with me." The Snow Lady was momentarily dazed. "You really dared to kidnap me?" However, at this time, Xia Shaochan couldn't go back even if she wanted to. Otherwise, what would happen to the Snow God's palace? The Snow Lady said, "I didn't see through your disguise." However, when the mermaid royal family finds that the princess is gone, they will know that a human colluded with the mermaid princess and will definitely suspect you. There were only these people, and they wouldn't leave until they got to the bottom of this matter. So, you have to pay attention to two people. One is Yi Qinglong of the Mermaid Clan, and the other is Ji Xian of the Grand Purity Palace. As the kings of this place, their strength should not be underestimated. As long as they don't see through your disguise, you will succeed. Han Fei said casually, "I'm already prepared. I will leave a half-king projection clone on the Snow God to prevent them from patrolling halfway." The Snow Lady said, "How can you leave in front of so many people? In fact, you should fake an accident and make people think that you have died. In this way, no one will doubt you." Han Fei smiled. "I don't think it's that troublesome. As long as they can't find you, can they stop the major forces from leaving?" The Snow Lady said, "That won't happen. However, it's necessary to check everyone. After all, not only is the princess of the mermaid royal family gone, but human beings are also considered to have traitors." Han Fei nodded, knowing that it was troublesome. Han Fei took out 30 keys to the underground palace and said, "Here are the extra 10 as thanks for your help." The Snow Lady accepted the keys without batting an eyelid. In fact, since she knew that Han Fei and Xia Shaochan pretended to be the black and white ghosts, she must know that Han Fei had more than 30 keys to the Imperial Palace. Han Fei probably had more than 200 keys to the Imperial Palace. Or even more. But so what? Han Fei had the keys to the Imperial Palace, which meant that there should be a force behind Han Fei. If this force also went to the Imperial Palace in the future, they might form an alliance because of Han Fei. A moment later, the Snow Lady took the two of them out of the cabin and appeared on the deck again. "Idiots, two idiots," suddenly, a voice burst out. Many people looked over, only to see the myriad poison ancestor pointing at Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming. He was almost pointing his finger at their noses. The myriad poison ancestor snorted. "You exchanged such an ultimate treasure for a mere 1,000 kilograms? Are you brainless? You should have brought all of the poison. Don't you know how to put it on credit? Did you invite him to the myriad poison heaven for a secret deal? Do you think I'll be short of resources if I invite him to the myriad poison heaven? You two idiots, go back and cultivate in seclusion for 10 years. Yes, Master. You're right. Master, Jingjiu knows he's wrong." Seeing the myriad poison ancestor suddenly fly into a rage, Lei Qing couldn't help but say, "Old Poison Huang, it's already good enough that your disciple came out safely. You scolded him as soon as you came out. Are you afraid that others won't know after such a great disturbance?" The myriad poison ancestor snorted. Those two wastrels encountered countless ultimate treasures and poisons in the land of King Burial, but they only brought back 1,000 kilograms. Don't you think I'm mad? I really want to slap them to death. As he spoke, the myriad poison ancestor glanced around. He even glanced past Han Fei. Although it was just a glance, Han Fei knew that the old man was looking at him. He just didn't want others to know, so he deliberately glanced around. Han Fei thought, "Oh no, I've been exposed. I'm not very familiar with Huang Jie. Although I told Bai Jingjiu that I exchanged poison for poison to poison others, but who is Huang Jie? He's cunning. Before entering the land of King Burial, Han Fei even went to Huang Jie's cabin in person and asked for some poison. Han Fei's heart tightened. Yes, I was too eager. I shouldn't have exchanged poison with Bai Jingjiu and Dong Fangming. I should have paid a visit to the myriad poison heaven when I was free. Just now, Huang Jie was ostensibly reprimanding his disciple loudly. He didn't seem to care who the black and white ghosts were, but he was actually sending a message to Han Fei. The kings were all speechless. So many people had died, but in this guy's eyes, only poison mattered. Huang Jie snorted. I don't know which brat it is. If I find him, I'll drain him dry. Han Fei was speechless. It seemed that there was one more person to deal with. The Snow Lady didn't look at Han Fei. She was only slightly surprised. Huang Jie didn't even bother to send a voice transmission. His public scolding was obviously meant for someone. Who else could it be except Han Fei? But strangely enough, Huang Jie didn't mention the name and even helped to keep the news a secret. It seemed that this person was up to something against Han Fei. 2 hours passed. There wasn't much time left before the exit was closed. However, some people in the land of King Burial hadn't come out. For example, Xia Shaochan and Han Fei, the black and white ghosts, Ji Chen, the heavenly talent of the Grand Purity Palace, and Qin Hao of the Five Elements sect. Seeing this scene, Yi Qinglong immediately said, Ji Xian, let's search the land of King Burial. Ji Chen nodded and then shouted, the rest of you, wait here. I'll be back soon. The two kings disappeared from the ship. After half an hour, when the two appeared again, they looked extremely awful. Ji Xian shouted, all the kings of the 36 mysterious heavens, please gather all the participants of this trial on the deck. I think you already know what happened. There is a traitor among the humans who colluded with the princess of the merfolk royal family and killed a lot of human experts. Yi Qinglong snorted and said, it's said that that person has a deep grudge against the Grand Pure Palace and the Wuji Palace. Who can you blame? But how dare this person take away the princess of the merfolk royal family? If we don't find him today, this matter won't be settled so easily. Humph, the myriad poison ancestor sneered, the land of King Burial is so large. Do you two have the ability to search it in half an hour? If he really wants to hide, I'm afraid you won't be able to find him. Humph. Yi Qinglong said coldly, we'll see if we can find him or not. You don't need to say anything. Yi Qinglong, be more polite with your words. At that moment, Huang Jie spoke aggressively. He seemed extremely powerful. But then, Huang Jie withdrew his aura and said grumpily, get out here. I want to see if you've changed your skin. Huang Jie interfered just to let Yi Qinglong and Ji Chen know that they shouldn't go too far. Do they really want to fight? He, the myriad poison ancestor, was the first one who was not afraid. Chapter 1804. Xia Xiaochan's identity was certainly important. Yi Qinglong took a trip to the place where the king perished and Xia Xiaochan disappeared. He wouldn't be able to explain it to Chen Huangdian after he returned. Ji Xian, on the other hand, had a bad feeling. This time, the number of experts who died wasn't much different from that of previous years. But in any case, Ji Chen couldn't have died. Even Limitless Heaven's Beitang Xian, who was personally attacked by Yun Tianhe, had almost died. Obviously, there was something wrong with this. From any perspective, someone who almost killed Beitang Xian couldn't be a half-king. They couldn't find anything wrong with the name of the black and white ghosts. However, it was big news that this person walked the invincible path. Therefore, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong planned to find out who this person was by checking their Dao. In this way, if Han Fei simply disguised himself with a spell, they might be able to find some clues. This way of finding people wasn't slow. Although they didn't want to show their power of Dao, it wasn't their own Dao, so they didn't mind being seen. Seeing and cultivating were two different things, so they didn't really care. He saw Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong searching from one house to another. The first place they went to was the Supreme Purity Palace, mainly to prove their innocence. The Glaze Heaven and the Taishian Heaven, Mui Shui Sisi said, can the strong do whatever they want and check other people's Tao? On the ship, a middle-aged man glanced at Mui Shui Sisi, and the latter immediately shut up. The man said, don't meddle in the king's business. Half an hour later, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong came to the ship of the snow god's temple. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were already standing there. Han Fei was wearing a mask, but it didn't mean that the strong couldn't see him. However, after wearing the mask, Han Fei indicated that he didn't want others to see him, and generally, no one would take the initiative to see him. This behavior was extremely impolite. It represented a provocation and made enemies for himself. On the snow god's temple's side, Han Fei was the only one wearing a mask, which attracted the attention of Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian. Of course, they didn't force Han Fei to see his mask in front of the snow lady. Ji Xian said, fellow snow lady, can you allow your disciple to take off his mask? Every time Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian checked a ship, everyone's eyes would be drawn to it. At this moment, when Ji Xian asked Han Fei to take off his mask, many people were curious about Shuizhan's mask for a long time. Mui Shui Sisi even transmitted her voice to Mu Shi in the Glaze Sky, Sisi, look, he's going to take off his mask. After that, you can propose in peace. The Glaze Sky's king glanced at Mu Shui Sisi. Then, he looked at Mu Shi and couldn't help but ask, what happened? Mu Shui Sisi stuck out her tongue and thought to herself, I didn't mean it. Mu Shi's face immediately turned red, and she quickly said, teacher, it's not what you think, it's just Sisi teasing me. It's just that fellow Taoist Shuizhan saved my life. Oh. Saved your life? I do have to thank him. Mu Shi, at this moment, the snow lady glanced at Han Fei and said lightly, Shuizhan. Han Fei said lightly, seniors, please forgive me. Shuizhan covered my face because I didn't want my appearance to affect my belief. After that, Han Fei grabbed the mask with one hand and slowly took it off. Immediately afterward, what was revealed was an almost perfect handsome face, fair and tender but not feminine at all. His eyes were calm and resolute, and his angular facial features were like a gift from heaven. There was unparalleled arrogance between his eyebrows, and the corners of his lips were slightly thin, with a natural upward curve. Hiss, wow, on the Taishian Heaven's side, Mu Shui Sisi exclaimed, isn't he too handsome? Sisi, you're so lucky. Clatter, the king of the Taishian Heaven was quite embarrassed. He stopped Mu Shui Sisi in disgust and then slightly cupped his hands to the people around him. Excuse me, excuse me. And the Moon King of the Glaze Sky couldn't help but be taken aback. Oh, I see. Mu Shi, do you like him? If you do, we can indeed propose in marriage. Mu Shi was greatly embarrassed. Although she was also dumbfounded, she quickly stamped her feet and waved her hand. Master, it's not like that. I haven't even talked to him. The Moon King smiled slightly. So what? Cultivators like me have a firm belief. It's not easy to meet someone I like. Especially in the Glaze Sky, there are very few men. Someone has to carry on the family line. Okay, I'll ask the Snow Girls about this later. Mu Shi, of course, Han Fei didn't use his own face. Who else could this face belong to but Zhang Xuanyu's? Only Zhang Xuanyu's face could be perfectly controlled by Han Fei because he was too familiar with this guy. At this moment, Ji Xian and Yi Qinglong also vaguely understood why Han Fei was so secretive. Of course, although he was a bit handsome, there was no need to hide it. It could only be said that Shuizhan's belief was not firm enough. Ji Xian said, little friend Shuizhan, please show me your Tao. Han Fei nodded slightly, only to feel that the Tao around him suddenly changed. Blood surged all over his body, and a powerful force inexplicably emerged. Han Fei said, my Tao can multiply my strength. Huh? Not just Ji Xian, but even Yi Qinglong couldn't help but be surprised. A Tao that could directly increase his combat power. This guy was born for battle, and he had already reached the level of Demi-King. If his strength doubled, he would probably be on par with Ji Chen and Bei Tangxian. He might even be a little stronger. Of course, although the two of them were surprised by Han Fei's talent, it was still far from being able to defeat Yun Tianhe as described by Bei Tangxian. In their opinion, Han Fei's talent was probably similar to that of Li Kaitian and Wu Hao. He was a top heavenly talent, but he couldn't kill Bei Tangxian and Ji Chen, nor could he pass through the pressure of the Bronze Gate. Because it was impossible. The two of them looked at him again and confirmed that there was no problem. After all, no one could walk on different daos. The two of them nodded slightly and continued to check the others. In just a few minutes, the Snow God's temple had found out who Han Fei was. On the Snow God's temple's side, only the Snow Lady and Bingxue Chuling knew Han Fei's identity. As long as the two of them kept their distance, there wouldn't be a problem. When Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian had just left, with a shua sound, two beautiful women appeared outside the heavenly snow ship. The Snow Lady was slightly surprised and then nodded. "What brings you here, Moon Monarch?" The Moon Monarch's real name was Qiu Yueming. In the glass sky, he was only second to the glass sky itself. Yes, the name of the master of the divine palace in the glass sky was Glass. Qiu Yueming said, "I'm here mainly to thank Shuizhan for saving my disciple Mu Shi." The Snow Lady couldn't help but glance at Han Fei, thinking, if you're just here to thank him, why did you come here with your disciple? It's obvious that you're interested in Han Fei. The Snow Lady smiled. "Moon Monarch, please board the ship." Next to Qiu Yueming, Mu Shi didn't dare to raise her face much and blushed like a quail. Many people from the Snow God's palace realized what was going on and were full of curiosity. The Snow Lady said, "Everyone go back to the cabin. Shuizhan and Chu Ling stay." Qiu Yueming's heart did a flip. The Snow Lady asked everyone to go back. It was fine to keep Shuizhan, but why did she keep Shuizhan and Chu Ling? It seemed that the Snow Lady wanted to marry Shuizhan and Chu Ling to Shuizhan. So, she told the Moon Monarch. However, who was Qiu Yueming? The glass sky was one of the super forces in the inner territory, much higher than the Snow God's palace. If Mu Shi and Shuizhan were together, the Snow God's palace would be protected by the glass sky. She didn't believe that the Snow Lady wouldn't want such a relationship. Qiu Yueming, however, didn't seem to understand what the Snow Lady meant. She smiled and said, "Cici, why don't you give it back to him?" Mu Shi trembled and hurried to take out the Sun Moon shell that she had prepared. She lowered her head and trotted to Han Fei, handing the Sun Moon shell to him. "Thank you again, fellow cultivator Shuizhan, for saving my life." This Sun Moon shell was lost on the battlefield. When Qiu Yueming and the Snow Lady looked at Han Fei, they didn't notice that Han Fei's shadow overlapped with Mu Shi's. At that moment, a pure black shadow appeared under Han Fei's feet and quietly touched Mu Shi's body. Han Fei's face was indifferent, and there was no emotion in his eyes. Seeing this scene, Qiu Yueming was a little worried. Is this guy so cold that he doesn't even like my disciple? Han Fei took the Sun Moon shell and said casually, "Actually, it's not necessary." At this moment, Mu Shi's heart was racing. She thought to herself, I can't be too embarrassed now that I'm here. She said, "Fellow cultivator Shuizhan, it's yours. You killed him, and you saved me. If I don't accept this Sun Moon shell, I'll have a mental barrier." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Then I'll accept it." Qiu Yueming was immediately relieved. She said, "Sister Snow Lady, it's a great story that you saved the damsel in distress. You know, the women of the glass sky always have high standards. There are very few men in the world who can catch my eye. My disciple is even more so. I'm so worried. Now I see that Shuizhan is a handsome man. Why don't we make it a great story?" The Snow Lady was about to refuse, when Han Fei slowly put the mask back on his face. There was no emotion in Han Fei's eyes. He said, "Once I put on the mask, I don't like anyone." After a while, the Snow Lady, Qiu Yueming, Bingxue Qiliang, Bingxue Qiliang wanted to see how Han Fei would refuse. However, he said, once I put on the mask, I don't like anyone. Can you please give me some face? After all, the one talking to you is a king. Mu Shi's face suddenly turned pale. She had never experienced this before. This is worse than the good guy card. The good guy card will even say that you are a good person. Mu Shi was stunned for a while. As a half-king, she quickly adjusted her state. Fellow cultivator Shuizhan, you misunderstood me. Don't think too much about it. Master, let's go back. Qiu Yueming looked at the Snow Lady and then at Shuizhan. She had heard that the Snow Lady loved her disciple very much. It seemed that it was true. This Shuizhan didn't even have the slightest tact. Brat, don't let me see you again, or I'll chop you into pieces. The third chapter. Please vote for me, end of this chapter. Chapter 1805. Mu Shi fled back to the Glass Sky's ship. Lu Ran had been staring at this side. What was going on? Why was my sister bullied? Immediately, Lu Ran went to the cabin to comfort Mu Shi. When Mu Shi entered the cabin, she saw that Mu Shi's eyes were red and she was stomping on the big ship. Hey, hey, hey. If you stomp again, the ship will sink. Don't you know how strong your feet are? Lu Ran was speechless. No, I didn't see you talk much. Did Shuizhan say more than 3 sentences from beginning to end? Even if he refused, we shouldn't be so angry, right? At this moment, Han Fei was still clinging to Mu Shi, thinking, Lu Ran is right. What's the big deal? You are already a half-king powerhouse. Why are you still acting like a 15 or 16-year-old girl? Mu Shi said angrily, He didn't agree. Couldn't he have been more tactful? He said that once he put on a mask, he wouldn't love anyone. What does he mean? Huh? Lu Ran was stunned. Is this Shuizhan so stupid? Mu Shi hugged Lu Ran angrily and shook her. He is not stupid. He did it on purpose. I thought he saved me because he felt sorry for me. Maybe he just did it for me. Lu Ran patted Mu Shi's back and comforted her, damn it. This person is really hateful. He should be cut into pieces and thrown into the sea to feed the fish. You gave him face, didn't you? Once he put on a mask, he wouldn't love anyone. Cece, what kind of person is she? She has so many pursuers from the inner sea to the outer sea. You gave him face by taking a fancy to him, but he didn't cherish it. Han Fei was speechless. What the hell? Do you mean I have to cherish it when you take a fancy to me? Do I really have no self-control at all? Also, what made Han Fei speechless was that no matter how old or strong a woman was, they all behaved like this. They hugged each other affectionately, and their mouths were filled with jealousy. Listening to the two women's crazy complaints, Han Fei naturally lost interest. He got down from Mu Shi's body and hid in a dark corner. The white mist had long been in Forge the Universe. What was left in the Snow God Palace was only a projection of his half-king. His strength was there, so he was no different from a real person. Other than not being able to cultivate, the half-monarch projection was extremely strong in all other aspects. Even if there was a heavenly talent battle now, Han Fei was confident that he wouldn't lose. Since the plan had succeeded and he had successfully infiltrated the Glaze Sky's ship, he naturally had no interest in listening to the two women's chatter. Han Fei entered Forge the Universe without attracting the attention of the two girls. Forge the Universe. Phew, Han Fei let out a long sigh of relief. His plan was flawless and could be said to be perfect. Huh? Han Fei suddenly realized that something was wrong here. Why is the spiritual energy in Forge the Universe so dense? Why did it seem that a lot of his 7 million top-grade spirit stones were missing? Han Fei confirmed it again. It seemed to be less than 5 million. It was very close. That's not right. Even if Senior Yuan and I absorb them together, where can we go? How can we absorb so many top-grade spirit stones in such a short time? Han Fei looked at the old turtle and asked, "Where are the spiritual stones?" The old turtle said, "I don't know. Originally, after taking Wu Hao's spiritual stones, there should be about 6 million left, but after entering the Bronze Gate, there are only more than 4 million left. Not only these ultra-quality spiritual stones, but also the energy that I suppressed, I'm afraid there is only less than half left." Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "You mean, I consumed them behind the Bronze Gate?" The old turtle nodded. "Of course. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to wait for you to escape. Now, as soon as you came in, you discovered it. Although I don't know what you did behind the Bronze Gate, what's there? But you must have encountered a big opportunity. Is it related to the Void Temple?" The old turtle was now seriously suspicious. What secrets did Han Fei hide? The moment he entered the Bronze Gate, he didn't know anything. Until he came out, what happened behind the Bronze Gate? He didn't know anything. Han Fei said leisurely, "What did you learn from disassembling spiritual energy?" The old turtle was silent for a moment. "I've already learned 99%. What about you?" The old turtle stared at Han Fei closely. Because he had a feeling, but he wasn't quite sure. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly, he looked up at the sky and said pretentiously, "Me? 100%. The old turtle was shocked to the extreme. How is it possible? In this world, there is no such thing as 100% spiritual energy disassembly. It has never been recorded. I've never heard of it. However, Han Fei said, in terms of spiritual energy disassembly, it's true that 99% is the limit. But, Old Yuan, do you know whether the Great Way strengthens the Taoist heart or the Taoist heart gives the power of the Great Way? Have you ever thought whether the Great Way or the Great Way comes first? Have you ever thought whether the Great Way really exists or not?" Han Fei had thought that this was definitely the most powerful show of pretentiousness that he had ever shown in history. It had always been Old Yuan who explained to him, and now it was his turn to do so. He would definitely let Old Yuan find that it was a wise choice to recognize him as his master. However, the old turtle blinked at Han Fei. "What did you say? Why are my ears buzzing? I can't hear anything." Han Fei was speechless. "Are you pretending? Have you been subdued by me? Are you too ashamed to admit it now?" The old turtle was puzzled. "Why am I convinced by you? I was a little sleepy just now and didn't hear a word you said. However, my heart trembled and I seemed to have some enlightenment." Han Fei looked at the old turtle deeply and felt that he didn't seem to be pretending, so he said in surprise, "Wait. You really didn't hear what I said?" "I said, blah, blah, blah." Then, he saw that the old turtle directly sat down cross-legged and entered a state of cultivation. Han Fei was stunned for a moment and seemed to realize that the old turtle really didn't hear what he was saying, so, he really heard everything behind the Bronze Gate, but he didn't understand anything. This seemed to be a kind of rule between heaven and earth. It seemed that at this last step, he had to comprehend it himself, and when those who had comprehended it talked to those who hadn't comprehended it, they were talking about a kind of heavenly way, a kind of heavenly book, a concept that they didn't understand at all. At this moment, Han Fei also understood. No wonder Old Yuan never knew that someone could deduce the degree of spiritual energy disassembly to 100%. In fact, it was not that there was no one who could talk about it. But, even if someone talked about it, you couldn't hear it. Since you couldn't hear it, and no one was going to talk to you. This could only mean that the old turtle was not an excellent emperor before. It was estimated that he was probably a loser among the emperors. As a result, he was led by a bastard for a long distance. Therefore, a loser was already a mythical existence in the vast world of the 36 Xiantian heavens. So, even a loser in the world of the strong was so powerful that he had to try every means to subdue it. Han Fei couldn't help but be speechless. Old Yuan was really lucky to have such an excellent master. Otherwise, he would probably have reached the end of his life. Even if he could recultivate to the heaven-opening realm, he would still be a loser. Seeing that old Yuan went to cultivate, Han Fei thought for a moment and jumped down from the ice lotus. With a thought, this massive amount of spiritual energy went to expand the space of Forge the Universe. And Han Fei himself summoned the phantom of mountains and rivers and stepped into the sea-quelling painting. Xia Xiaochan was so anxious and restless in the sea-quelling painting that she couldn't cultivate anymore. The hexagon starfish said, "Stop shaking. You can't solve the problem even if you shake." Xia Xiaochan snorted. "You heartless bastard. You only know how to eat and sleep all day. Have you eaten my power of Tao?" The hexagon starfish's big eyes kept rolling. "No. Starfish didn't even eat a little bit. Didn't Han Fei say that the power had a stronger effect?" Xia Xiaochan snorted. "You're smart. If I find out that the power is too little, I will skin you on the spot." The hexagon starfish shuddered and thought to himself, Xia Xiaochan was so easy to eat. Why was Han Fei so fierce as soon as he arrived? When Xia Xiaochan was teaching the hexagon starfish a lesson, she saw Han Fei appear with a swish. Immediately, Xia Xiaochan forgot about the hexagon starfish. Ah! She rushed over and hung on Han Fei. One of her hands was still raised high. "We're free," Han Fei thought to himself. It seems that this girl has indeed become stupid after being locked up for too long. Why is she so happy? Han Fei said, "Yes, you're free. But we can't go out yet. Yi Qinglong and Ji Xian, those two people, are searching for us one by one." Xia Xiaochan's body suddenly stiffened. "Then, you won't be found out, will you?" Han Fei smiled. "If I could be found out, would I still be here?" "Wow!" Xia Xiaochan rewarded Han Fei with a big kiss. "So, we're still free." Han Fei rubbed Xia Xiaochan's head and said, "We are now on the ship of the glass sky. It will probably take 3 to 5 days to return to the glass sky from here. During this period, you can make use of the power of Tao that escapes from the bronze gate." Xia Xiaochan's eyes lit up and she asked curiously, "How do I use that power? I feel that power seems to be of great benefit to cultivation." The hexagon starfish also added, "I think that as long as I absorb this power, it will only take me a few months to break through to the peak stage of the venerable realm." Han Fei immediately said, "That's not enough." Han Fei said, "Let me tell you, the main use of this power is to reconstruct spiritual energy and reverse deduce the degree of spiritual energy disassembly.